much. We are calling this meeting of the executive committee together. It's at the time as 7:13. I want to thank everyone for all the officers, for all the work we've done. We are now in the April month, which means we're in the home stretch this year. So I want to thank everyone for the work that we've done. Now we need to finish up strong. So there's going to be a lot of items that we're going to be doing in terms of making sure we're going to wrap up the committees, activities, including the community fair. And we have a number of other items that are going on in the district. But without further ado, we're going to go right into the agenda. So we'll start with the committee chair check-ins. Well, actually, let's do this for attendance purposes, and also just we can give introductions to anybody who's online as well. So if I could ask if the members of the exec could just go around the table and just state your name and position.
Minor Representative Treasurer.
Nicholas Alvarado, member at large.
Felice Robinson, second vice chair.
Ethan Norville, first vice chair.
Fred Baptiste, chair.
Linda Watson Lord, secretary.
Daniel Rosenberger, member at large.
Okay, and with that, we have a quorum of the executive committee. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so at this time, we're going to go into the committee check-ins. If I could ask, Suki, do you have a report for land use?
Yeah, okay, so one issue that came up was approval of the minutes. This is taking up like a lot more time than expected because people seem to want a lot of changes. They're being very picky about what goes in there. And so we requested that the office start sending out the minutes for approval to all of the committee members the week before the meeting. Obviously, all board members get it like several weeks in advance after the general meeting. But we have resident committee members who aren't getting it, and they seem to be people who always want changes. And so we ask that all changes be in by 2 days before the actual meeting date, so that as people, we're sending in changes like the, day before, day of, and then everybody had like all the different versions and everything, and it just frankly, I think it would be preferable if we're voting on it at the general board anyway, not to do this, because I think it causes, it takes up a lot of time and realism to the whole agenda, but if we need to do this, then, we wanted to do this like with more time. So there was that. We talked about community fair activities. We're gonna have a trivia game with land use questions on cards pinned to a map of the district, and give prizes to people for getting the questions right. If anybody has ideas for what you think would be appealing prizes, I know it's a little bit harder now with tariffs to get cheap little plastic toys, but we'll do what we can, and so that was good. It sounds like there's gonna be a good number of volunteers. We did request again that it not be held on a Saturday to accommodate people whose religious day is Saturday. But I don't know what the board is planning on doing. What else? So the Vital Brooklyn Development final environmental impact statement came out, and there are impacts, like significant impacts, that cannot be mitigated. Among them, they're looking at a shortage of about 99 parking spaces. Street parking spaces, and this is in spite of the fact that they've currently added 46 parking spaces to the original plan. They're also looking at some congestion impacts from added bus service, which they think can be partially mitigated through like changing some traffic signal time and everything, but not fully mitigated. The residents, we have had residents at the meeting who live in the area who remain concerned about security because of the men's homeless shelter and the amount of supportive housing for the MICA shelter, the mentally ill and chemically addicted population, and that's not something that's required to be addressed in an environmental impact statement, except maybe indirectly in the neighborhood category, character category. But it is does seem to be like the number one concern, for our residents. They already requested an increased, like an extra NYPD like post there. And so that's something that we wanna bring forward. The other problem is that the design of this space, it incorporates 2 acres of open space, which is like supposed to be like, you know, like just a giant, I don't know, like public lawn or something. But considering that security is such a big concern for the residents, that doesn't really seem to fit in. And originally, I think the nonprofit who's gonna run the homeless shelter promised that there would be private open space for the shelter residents and the other residents, which I think would have been more in keeping with, you know, what everybody is concerned about. They're also concerned about like loading and unloading traffic from the supermarket that's planned. So it's like 4 supportive and low-income buildings, 2 home ownership buildings, and 2 buildings for the men's shelter, plus several community facilities. So it's a very like intensive development, even though it's a large space. So they felt that those concerns were not addressed either. So they were also concerned that there was not enough notice to us before the directors for Empire State Development voted on the final environmental impact statement. I mean, of course, you know, you can lodge a protest after the FEIS. That's, you know, traditionally when stuff and lawsuits are filed and so on, if you feel that there's, you know, the environmental impact statement was done in error. But I think like this has come up in the past too, when I've looked at state-backed developments, that they really don't give you notice except like putting it on their website, and nobody really knows to go to their website to like check when the meeting is gonna be. So, I mean, I would love to see like posted notice at the site, so whoever's in the area knows when there's gonna be a meeting or whatever, important date. We talked about the CB9 zoning framework, about adding to it. There were members who would like to add more language around zoning for affordable housing, in particular like prioritizing public land, including NYCHA, for affordable housing, church-owned land, and so on. We, I think that I felt it's important to like hear what the housing committee was doing. I know that you guys are looking at the district needs, and so I think before we can make a statement on, you know, what is the priority, we need to. And also just in terms of other things too, whether it's health, economic development, you know, environment, whatever. Housing is not the only possible use of vacant land. So, you know, I think if we would love to hear from the other committees what your priorities and needs are, if there's anything related to, you know, like use of land. We'd like to hear that as well. There was an update on 7399 Empire Boulevard. Councilmember Crystal Hudson and Rita Joseph met with the developer. They're continuing to push CB9's priorities, including deeper affordability, greater affordability, affordable rental space, affordable commercial space for small business, and the concerns about shadows on nearby properties. There's a city council zoning subcommittee hearing on this on April 23rd. So definitely if any of you are interested in that, you should consider attending. You'll have to check the city council's calendar. They're usually the hearings are usually in the morning, they're usually streamed, but you can, I assume, even with subcommittee meetings, you can attend in person. So after the subcommittee vote, it will be a full committee vote, but you know, the subcommittee vote could be dispositive as we discussed it. And that's it. That's all I have. So we didn't really like vote on anything for the zoning framework. we just talked about some of, the issues and the zoning tools, one issue that came up was like anti-harassment zoning for tenants, which is interesting. That's something else that, you know, we'd be interested in taking a look at with the housing committee. Traditionally, it's only mapped when there's a rezoning for a lot of new development, like in Hell's Kitchen or Williamsburg or something like that. But I wonder whether it needs to be confined to that. I mean, if, you know, tenant harassment is a problem, why shouldn't it just be mapped wherever for whoever needs it and wants it? I don't understand why it has to be tied to zoning. But you know, if it's not tied to zoning, that should be a conversation at the housing committee as well as ours. So, that's all I have.
So actually, guys, didn't do much this month.
I'm sorry, that was a lot.
No, I won't mess with you. No, but thank you very much. No, I always have to say I appreciate definitely the in-depth nature of the committee meetings. You guys go into a lot of details, and you have a lot of people come out because we really care about what's going on with land use in the district, especially because it's scarce. And we all see what the rental prices are and everything, so we want to make sure that we are weighing it appropriately. All right, let me start with this. Questions for the land, there are no action items for this month. All right, are there any questions for the land use chair going around the table? Mr. Rosenberger?
Yeah. Didn't we discussed also sending a letter that they should,
Oh, yeah,
the
okay,
last
so.
meeting, they should redo it after?
Yes, so we asked, the district office to send 2 letters regarding Vital Brooklyn. One to Empire State Development about the lack of notice to CB9. I mean, we always want as much, whether it's illegal or not illegal, we want as much notice as possible, just as a matter of courtesy, I think. And on the Vital Brooklyn FEIS. And the second was that there were reports in some local publications that the lobbyist for One Brooklyn Health is asking the state attorney general for permission to sell a piece of land south of, on the Kingsbrook Hospital campus, that's south of the Kingsbrook Estates development. So Kingsbrook Jewish, there, you know, I'm not completely familiar with that campus, but the northern part of the campus is now being developed under Vital Brooklyn with maybe 250 or 300 units of senior low-income housing. But now they're talking about selling off the southern half of the campus, which includes a synagogue that I guess Mrs. J attends. You know, the rumor is that it might be for affordable housing development. We don't know. And so we were asking the AG to give us any information they have about a proposed sale and when what the timeline is, what the, you know, terms are going to be, if they know what the new development is, et cetera, et cetera. Because the AG has to approve the sale of any state-owned land. And I also don't know if this means that Kingsbrook Jewish is closing entirely. I mean, it seems like their emergency room and so on was already closed. So I don't know if there's anything left of Kingsbrook Jewish. But, you know, again, these might be issues like, you know, for health and social services to look at, you know, what are the remaining hospitals and the remaining hospital capacity and what the, you know, what the needs are of the community. So those letters were sent. We got back a reply already from Empire State Development telling us, no, your notice period isn't before the FEIS gets approved. It's after the FEIS meeting, but it was only 10 days. So by the time you had your meeting, it was up. Too bad. You know, I don't think it's just clearly not sufficient to post it bury it on the website. I think it needs to be, you know, posted at the site, but that might be a change in the law.
Just a quick mention, just because it's come up. Yeah, I don't want to cut you off. But one of the things that I saw the response that came from EDC,
Yeah.
I have some problems with what they said as well. First of all, because I think they're trying to characterize it as if, oh yeah, we spoke to the chair and to the district manager, we sent the notice. I get a call on Friday in the middle of the afternoon, unsolicited, saying, oh, by the way, let me get somebody else on the line. And they start giving me the entire, you know, summary of what's going on with this, and I'm like, okay,
What do
so
you
this
want me to
cold
do?
call, and what am I supposed to
Yeah.
do with this
Yeah.
at this time of the day? At which point they were saying, okay, well, listen, we're going to send this to the board, so it's gonna be coming to you. Okay, that's great, I'll make sure I get it to the board. The request I absolutely made with them was, I said, I know my district is still going to have questions with respect to this. So the first thing we did is we were trying to see if we could get them to come before one of the committees, either housing or,
Right.
or land use. Because of the timing, that wasn't going to work, I think they weren't able to organize around that, but I have a standing request with them, I told them they need to come in
Yeah.
and discuss this. And the other piece that I have a problem with as well is because I was very interested in terms of, is this final, or is this something that's gonna happen? They didn't mention anything to me about, okay, well, there's a 10-day period in which they were supposed to be taking commentary. Because had I known that part of it, I would have said, all right, fine, maybe we need to mobilize around that, or we'll give a response saying that's not sufficient.
Right.
That didn't come through either.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there's a number of problems that I have with that. Oh, and then I guess the last piece of that is, my understanding is there is a vote that is actually supposed to happen with EDC in terms of where they actually adopt the
General.
the FEI, the general document. It's at that point when they do that when they do that vote, that's adopted and it authorizes the sale, I believe.
Okay.
Now, part of what I saw in the FEIS as well is I think there's still a number of other contingencies in terms of other things that have to happen. For example, I know it's been brought up several times in terms of the deed.
Yeah.
So the deed is still an open question that should be answered before anything happens, and we should get an answer before anything happens as well. As well as I think that there were a number of other open questions that we should be placing to city agencies in terms of who's supporting what. Because they're saying, okay, well listen, a lot of these services are supposed to be supported and they're supposed to be doing supportive housing. Great. I'm not sure if they've gotten to the point where they've said who's paying the tab for these things either. So I think it's important for them to come before us,
Yeah.
and they need to say these things.
Yeah, I would like to see that as
Yeah,
well.
the one thing I would say is, with that as well, I think towards the community piece, I understand the community, issues with that. The one piece that I got from the FEIS, or that I got directly from EDC, was that there is supposed to be a community advisory board. So even once this is up, during this process and after this process is done, we are supposed to be able to have a seat at the table to definitely make sure that they are staying true to their word, in terms of if they said they're gonna have certain things, they need to do this as well. Understanding the point about the campus, I think part of the whole sale was they weren't trying to make this a small little private gated community. This is supposed to be open land that is accessible to the public, so the neighbors can go in there and they can take care of take advantage of the green space and whatever other amenities are on the property. But definitely, I mean, and it goes back to that point about, we need to be very clear in terms of, they've already committed to making sure that there's 24-hour security that is monitoring the premises. That is supposed to happen. The question, I believe, that we need to verify with them is that they are working hand in hand with NYPD, with the 71st Precinct,
Right.
in terms of making sure that there is a method of escalating. I'm going to say that, yes, things are going to go well and everybody's going to enjoy the space, but we also need to understand better, if something happens, when we push the button, who's coming running? So, a lot of open questions that are still there. We
Yeah.
are still pushing for that.
Yeah.
I'll ask Dante if he's got any other response with respect to EDC coming here. Because I fully expect that they should come here and they should give us that update, as opposed to, we'll go read through 75 pages and figure out whatever it is. And again, I think that there are still opportunities for us in terms of if there are any responses or any questions that we should send, because I think that the EDC, again, the directors meeting is not until the latter part of May.
Okay.
So that may give us a little bit of time in terms of if we still have some questions that we need to ask or that we need answered,
Yeah.
we still have a little bit of time with that. Not a
Yeah.
bunch, but we still have some. And I apologize, I didn't mean to jump into your.
No, I'm.
Was your question answered?
Yeah.
Okay. Madam Secretary, you have any questions for land use? First Vice Chair,
I answered already.
Second Vice Chair,
No, thank you.
Member Laura, Treasurer?
No.
You good, Treasurer?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much for that. Okay, so there are no action items for this one, all right, thank you for that. Environmental protection, Madam Chair, you have a report for this one?
Good evening, everyone. As I do have the report, we met on April 3rd, and we had two presentations, one by the current DEP Borough Commissioner for Brooklyn, who did I want to say that she's in the training phase of her job. She just got the job and she's, but she's very well, versed in terms of what she hopes to do moving forward with, the DEP concerns in the borough. So she gave us a presentation and, you know, whatever it is, whatever questions we had for her, she said she would follow up and get back to us or to that, the community board. So that was good, and hopefully we can, hopefully you guys can get the presentation as well. Cause I asked, Kendall to put it in the, minutes for the, from the meeting. We also had a presentation from, Michael Reiser, who is a paint care representative. And I believe we spoke about this, paint care, project that they have where they have certain designated locations where you can go and drop off any paint that you have stored in your basement or wherever. And they would in turn pick it up, collect it from those locations. So hopefully we can do something on that. That's, you know, one of our ideas, to find a location nearby within the community and, get people to drop it off there and they can collect it from there. And, we also had a report that Mr., what's his name, on our committee, Mr. Herbert. It's a DEP, not DEP, but the NYC Controller audit report, I believe I mentioned that as well, on fire hydrants. And it's more or less, this was back when, Scott Stringer was, controller. This report was done and they made some, requests, from DEP, in terms of what they should be doing based on the report that they submitted. And so he reviewed the report and, you know, we hopefully, requested, I don't know if Dante got that information yet, requested a letter, you know, providing us with information in terms of what has that, those recommendations, were they, you know, taken care of? So hopefully we can get information in terms of, you know, what was done since the former, controller made those requests and whether anything was done about that. And I guess, you know, in terms of all the issues with water, when there's a fire at hydrants, I mean, it makes sense to make sure that these things are in working conditions and stuff like that, so. And, that's about it. The other thing is, we had some smaller, you know, community issues with big trucks parked on Brooklyn Avenue, and of course, you know, Mr. Herbert, he keeps them moving, or jumping, I should say, but, hopefully he can, you know, get more information on where that is with 311 numbers. And then also the SNY sweepers, and the water on the truck. I noticed that normally when they come through, there's no water and, you know, it's just like they just drive by. And, you know, they need to have water on these, trucks, the sweepers, when they're going by, pick up whatever. So, yeah, looking at that as well. And that's all I have.
No, thank you very much for that. When Dante gets back, remind me when he gets back, let's ask him to send that formal inquiry out to DSNY about what's going on with the water and the sweepers. Okay, no, but thank you very much. So you have no action items for this month for the board?
Actually, we did vote on this, report from Mr. Herbert to, move it forward, to have a letter go to the, but I have to follow up with Dante. I don't wanna confirm something that, you know, may not be. in
Is there a
progress.
time sensitivity, like, does it have to go out?
I don't think, no, because this report has been since, probably what, 20, Yeah,
Over
20
the years,
yeah,
so it's strange,
yeah.
isn't it? Over the
So,
years.
so if anything, so let's talk offline with that, and we can give it to Dante. Dante may be able to just send that letter out in terms of making that inquiry about what's going on with this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, whether
And if
any
anything,
of
you might be
the
able to get additional information so that we
recommendations
can have-
were made, yeah.
Right,
Okay,
and you can probably get more information so you can have it for your next meeting as well.
Right.
Whatever.
okay, yeah,
Okay, so we can definitely do
that's,
that.
yeah, that's all I know.
Okay, all right, so then there's no action item, we'll do that side with Dante in terms of that. Any questions from the
Yeah, I
exec?
have a couple of questions.
So we're gonna start on
One.
this side.
Yeah, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I said I have a couple
I
of
wanna
questions.
mess, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, could I go ahead?
Yeah.
One, the first one is, for that report, since it's been over 8 years, would they be able to, has there been any follow-up or updates? It's been a long
Now-
time since Stringo
I'm
did
not
that.
sure whether there was any follow-up prior to, our committee,
That may be one of the things we put in the
so that
letter.
means that
That's
was
what I'm-
probably a report just sitting there,
Right. And it's
Nobody,
something
yeah.
we may want, Dante to address in the letter to request information. The other question is that I have noticed there will be a Flatbush Parkside Empire cleanup. Are you guys involved in that?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, you didn't see that online?
No.
I think,
April 26th,
it's April
and
26th?
then there's another one in May.
Okay. So-
Who's coordinating
Well,
that?
it seems to be the people involved, people that used to have I think Dr. Cutts, the people that was involved into the business development along that commercial corridor.
Hmm.
So you guys have no sort of,
I
I've seen,
heard about it from
I've
some of
seen
the big
a,
people.
Oh, you heard about it through the
it
bid?
is through social media that I saw it.
I think there's a group of residents and maybe they've reached out to the merchants and.
Okay, so it's probably a bid event.
But there's no bid there. They
It's
just-
not the bid, it's the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. I
Oh,
think, is
okay.
working with the Flatbush merchants.
Oh, for the Flatbush, okay, so,
Yeah.
so that's why I wanted to know if you guys were involved in that.
No,
Question, who takes care of garbages, like, if you wanna put a garbage can by, like on the corner where the schools are, or, on any corner, matter of fact, if there are none, okay, especially by the park, cause I find that there's a lot of overflow of garbage, especially by the park,
Do you wanna make that up?
yes. So who's in charge of that? Who makes sure that there are garbage containers?
Well, that's DSNY, I mean, I don't know.
Department sanitation.
Yeah, it's either
Yeah.
DSNY or if you have, an organization that's going to buy the cans.
I see.
So if you buy the cans, cause we've actually done that in the past. So we've
There's
actually
still cans
purchased
of
cans.
safety.
Yeah,
Right, when we purchase the cans, the only thing we do is we work with this DSNY, so that way they know that the cans are there and they have to service them. So if there are locations specifically where we know we need that, please feel free to let Dante know so we can make the inquiries. I don't know what our budget's gonna look like, so I don't even wanna say about CB9 has money for that, but I mean, it's a matter of this, we can make the inquiries to see if DSNY has anything, or we can even push it to the elected officials as well,
Yeah.
because sometimes I know the council members will sponsor those cans as well.
Yeah, they have them.
Okay, very good, because when I went near, the McNair Park, the garbage is so overflown that no one picks that.
Is it
garbage up.
inside the park
It's
or
inside the
outside?
park.
Now,
I
was
just wanna
it,
mention, I just wanna mention that in addition.
well, if it's inside the park, it's probably
Parks Department.
Parks Department.
yeah, then that's probably.
Yeah, sometimes it's a tricky situation. It's just like a school playground, it could be parks maintaining that as opposed to the school,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Let me ask this, is it a consistent thing, or is it like somebody who decided to have an impromptu party with their friends in the middle of the
It
park?
looks like a consistent thing, cause I walk up and down that block, so.
Okay.
I know we have no
They-
trash receptacles on Schenectady Avenue, and Utica still has outdated trash receptacles that are prone to rats. So it would be great if we got some new stuff over in that area, in the eastern part.
There you have it.
So there are none there now?
I have none on my street at all, no.
Oh, you said you have none, or you have,
No, there's
still the
none.
wire baskets that,
No, no,
The
it's
rats-
people
rats
who are
love
putting,
it.
it's just people putting out trash bags on the corner, so no trash receptacles.
they're putting trash bags on the corners?
They're using the actual
Okay,
fences to hang a trash bag
okay,
because we don't have.
and that's a dumping issue too then?
Yes, it is.
So, okay, all right.
Well, maybe you that's just,
Is that
That's
what, a
like
residential
in some kind of
area or?
I mean, we're between Utica and Troy, so not really. And we have commercial activity on, not big, but we have stuff on Schenectady. We're right next to the grocery store, we have the pharmacy, we have some bodegas on the street. There's also Family Dollar, all of this stuff around us that it gets very dirty very quickly because there's nowhere for us to throw our trash away.
Oh, okay, so can you provide the district office with the locations
Yeah.
where, you know,
And,
you
and
think
even,
there
even
should
better,
be?
if we're able to, and you know, I know I'm a broken record with this, if we can put the 311 complaints in,
Yeah.
because there might be a dumping issue there, which is a larger thing.
I mean,
Right,
I contacted them about it.
Because somebody might be too
Our
cheap
contact
to get a,
through-
you know,
to
to
get, yeah,
get the carding and everything like that, so it's like, no, that's part of doing business, you
Yeah,
gotta get the
basically on
carding.
Schenectady between like Eastern Parkway and Empire, there are no trash cans.
It actually goes further, but
may I
That's
suggest maybe some kind of a survey and investigation should be done. That we just, maybe the committee should start working with this and find out.
that would be awesome.
Just do a visual thing to find out. what's in it, because I know in my area, sometime in my block, there used to be 4 garbage can, I'll come 2 months later, only 2 is there.
but I would think that DSNY would have like a log or something
Yeah,
of
that's
where
it.
trash cans are located.
Right.
You know, I mean, based on, you know, data, you know, the,
I think the SNY should have that data,
yeah,
in terms of the corners, but for the park, it would be the park supply.
I mean,
Right.
It could be public too, actually.
What?
Could be public too.
Yeah.
There's a map somewhere, it's mapping out.
because I know sometimes even the garbage cans along Nostrand, when it's supposed to be on a corner, sometimes you'll see it somewhere else. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, why are they moving the garbage cans around? And, you know, so,
Go ahead.
Question, another garbage question. The sanitation garage on Winthrop and corner of Winthrop and New York Avenue, we've always had this problem that it doesn't fit all of the garbage trucks and they're all parked all up and down the street in the surrounding area, which is residential, it's disgusting. Have we, and I know it's been on our, you know, like capital needs plan since, for how many years? Have we made any progress with that? Is there any way to like ask the sanitation commissioner what it would take to get a new garage, get an expanded garage, what, something to contain the
That becomes a land issue.
that's a land issue. That's
Yeah,
a
in
land
terms
issue.
of where do they park?
Where do they park?
Where do they
Yeah.
park?
Suki, what's the address?
It's actually been on our request list for years in
Yeah.
terms of doing that. The issue has been, where do they move it to?
Right.
Right.
Because nobody wants them to move it.
No, but I mean, like that particular site, okay, so the garage is 1 story. So one option would be rebuild the garage to 2 stories. I don't know if that's feasible from an operational point of view to have a 2-story garage. The second option is, it's right next door to this Kings County.
thank you.
It's right next door to the Kings County parking lot, so that's like another possibility for, you know, expansion. I don't know if that parking lot is used, it's fully utilized.
It's, that parking is
It's
very
fully
well used.
utilized.
That
That's the
becomes
interest
a
that they have
multi-entity kind of
your,
thing, because between,
emergency one.
Okay.
and it becomes a multi-agency thing, because that's between New York City Health and Hospital, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing they own that property.
Yeah.
And then the city would have to strike some kind of deal with them and then do all kinds of other stuff. I don't know what conversations have been had, or if they just said, no, they're not doing that because they want these spots, so, but it's something that's consistent, but we can always make that inquiry in terms of if something's been done,
Okay.
or if there's any more.
Okay.
Suki, could you tell me the address?
It's the corner of New York Avenue and.
New York and
Winthrop
Winthrop.
Street.
I just want to make sure we were thinking of the same
It's the
thing.
northwest corner, I'm not sure exactly what the address
It's
is.
the, I live on Winthrop, so that kind of sanitation is on the northwest corner of, Winthrop and New York.
I got, but
It
right
takes more or
across
less
from,
most of the block from Winthrop to Parkside.
Right,
So they
yes,
park on both
yes.
sides, both on Parkside. They park all over the sidewalk on both sides.
and then the gas station over the other side.
And there's the
Right,
gas station on
okay,
the other
got it.
side.
I mean, maybe if there's just even a way of finding out in other districts how it's handled, do any of them have multi-story garages, like how much land do they have, like what, how does this, cause it, I mean, like I know there are districts that don't have the same problem as us, but there are also districts that don't, so.
Right. because I know on Pacific Street, where they have one of those large, it's almost along a large commercial stretch, so they have no problem, they have a lot of space in there. Talking about Pacific Street, one Rochester, and Utica Avenue, and that. So I don't know. I mean, space in Brooklyn is so limited, I can't think of anywhere.
Because there's a parking lot there, but I guess it belongs to the hospital, I'm
Right.
not sure.
No, actually, that
Is that-
parking lot belongs to Downstate.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah.
The
It's
hospital.
Downstate Hospital. As a matter of fact, I think they have plans to develop it already.
I don't know the way they're talking about downstate, I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but,
I mean, I'm talking about that parking lot. I've heard of plan to develop that area because a lot of that's Downstate, not Kings County. So,
Well, if they're planning on putting residential there, I hope they take into account there are these disgusting trucks parked all over.
I hope so too. So if you look on the development of Downstate, if you want to look into
Well, I
that.
would think that if they're doing development there, they would have taken all those things into consideration before,
Not
you know.
necessarily, there's some new
I don't think they've gotten
developments
to
going
that
on
point
right
where they
next to
talked about
that
development
garage.
on that. I don't think the conversations have gotten that far, at least not that I've heard of anything like that.
Right.
But at least in terms of what's there right now, I mean, obviously, as a board, I think we've been pushing for them to try and do something about that situation, just so you don't have garbage trucks all up and down the street, residential living neck of the woods. It's just one of those things, it got exacerbated, because remember, we used to have 2 in the district, there used to be 2 depots.
It used to be, I
Yeah.
thought that was the other one.
Because the other one was over by, where Mega Rivers now is.
That's correct. I was gonna
So-
say that.
So when they sold that one, obviously, I think they moved all their
They
operations
put all the
over.
operation.
Yeah.
But-
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but there
They
was
don't
one
expense
there.
that, correct.
Mm.
So, but I mean, it's an open issue, but we're definitely making that, we can definitely advocate to see what can we do with this one, I mean, if there's any conversations that we have. Okay, all right, so Madam Chair, any other questions for environmental protection? Okay, everyone, thank you very much, Madam Chair. All right, let's go to, education library and services, we got a report.
Yes, sorry. We had our education town hall at Clara Bergen a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. It was a very well presentation. We had the superintendent of our district, we had teachers, we had parent teachers association representatives, right? It was online, and we did have a good set of viewers, but the in-house attendance was not that great. But it was well put together. Our chair was there, and everybody, the grown-ups who were presenting, and the discussion was very, very, very updated. And so I invite you to go back when you get a chance, and you can view the YouTube. Coming up, we are in the process of planning our careers there. We've had a few setbacks with having dates with availability, but I think we're working towards revamping a new date to the end of May. So please keep your ears open, because we'll be needing some help in volunteering from the board members. So at the next meeting, we will sure of whether or not we've got the dates. We've applied for 2 spaces, so we will see which one comes in.
All right, and at this point, I just wanna call out, the chair for saying that she's being way too modest in terms of, I was so proud of the committee and our board, because it really was that kind of conversation, it was fantastic. So really, my kudos go to you and the leadership and everyone who came out. The numbers were not where we wanted to be, but it was a little bit rainy,
Yeah, our audience was not,
yeah.
but our audience was not really
It
chill.
was well structured.
Yeah, it was
Well
well-
edited as well. I was
Yeah,
online.
Right.
but so if you
And we definitely had a number of people online as well.
right, so if you
Yes.
watch it online, you would be really very, very comfortable with.
Yeah,
It was done very well. It was good.
yeah, we had the right people in the
the
space to have the
space.
kind of conversation we needed to have about what's going on in terms of education. So I just really wanna, again, just, shout out to the Hills, what job well done,
Thank you.
job well done, I
And
really appreciate it.
it just needs to be more people to benefit from this, because it was well done.
Yeah, well, and the takeaway from that is,
Online?
now that we've convened,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
sorry, yes. But one of the takeaways was, now that we've convened, this shouldn't be the last conversation we have. Because now we have that direct line with the superintendent for District 17, which is all of our schools, our 17 schools. We heard what the important issues are that are going on in the schools. We had educators, we had people who are in the school, we had past educators, we had people who are really embedded in terms of what's going on in the district. So I think we know what the issues are, and we know how to have the conversation. The president of CEC 17 was there as well. Which was really great because she was able to give that parent's perspective in terms of what are the challenges our parents are facing in the district. So yeah, the people who needed to be there were there, and I think the conversation that I've had with them as well is that we need more of these conversations. So definitely, I want to look for us in terms of having more representation with the CEC, because that's where we'll hear a lot of the things we need to hear in terms of what resources are required in the district. So this is a great first step, and in terms of, again, I think the energy is there, we've made the connections we need to make, and CV9 is truly a stakeholder in here. And again, thanks to everyone, and thank you to the committee as well.
So
I have
we
to
can
do
watch
this.
this on CV9's website.
It is.
Yes.
Well, one
So,
question, is it an event that we could make it an annual event?
Well,
Yes, we will.
Yeah, the town hall is quite easy to put together, so yes, we can,
I think,
right?
I
But
think
this,
it's a great
this,
idea.
this year would be our, I think, second or third Korea's fair. But the town hall was our first event, our first attempt at that, and it was.
Yeah, because if you make it an annual event, so you could start planning from now, so fall, so you could really put the word out to get
Yeah,
as
to
many,
get- yeah,
as
yeah.
many people out there as possible.
thank
And all the
you.
stakeholders.
Cause you had a lot of.
Well, the
I
last
can make it
question
okay.
that I have in terms of this, how about the support staff at the school, how much involvement were they as part of that? Because a lot of people forget, it's not just the teachers, it's the custodian, the parents, and all these people that make the school work. And I think my suggestion next time is to reach out to the union of these people to get them involved. Because you have these 37 people involved in there taking care of the school, you have the custodian union and all this stuff. Because they have the saying what's happening in every school building. And that makes a big difference in terms of.
That's Anthony Wells, 371.
Well, the whole 72.
372.
Yeah, with
That's Sean.
Sean D and Francois.
Sean, that's
Okay,
fine.
thanks.
absolutely.
Would it make sense to have the town hall at the beginning of the school year, or in those months of October, well,
I mean, I will defer to, I mean, I think these are all great suggestions in terms of who else we should be bringing to the table and the timing. I'll defer, but I mean, I think you bring these back
I
to the
think
committee.
this was around right before vacation, and everyone's
Right,
Breaks
before,
are-
like spring break and, yeah,
Yeah,
some people went away,
Well,
yeah.
if I say something, beginning of the school is kind of tough.
It's kind of tough,
The
it's not,
schools are so busy.
yeah, I think we,
Yeah, probably the spring conference is probably the best way to do it,
That was
especially
our
when
point,
they
let's
start,
come
back.
when they start the
vacation?
second half, I'm
Yeah.
talking about high school, when they start the second half of the semester, of the year, which is February, March and stuff like that. So I think, because that way, they already been organized for the whole year, and even though there's a small transition, then this is a less busy time to get
and we had a good representation across the bridge, not only high school, they were from all three.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah.
I'll just make a suggestion that if you wanted to broadcast this presentation, it might be a good idea to have like a poster with a QR code.
We've done all of that.
let me say this, the
We've
committee,
done that.
the committee, let me say this. Not even just, even the content aside, just by virtue of the fact that the stakeholders who were in the room. The event was very well run in terms of between the use of technology,
Only a few- and only a
the use
few
of
people-
technology, QR codes,
Yes.
you know, even the way they got questions, you know, we're able to field questions from the audience and from the public. They really did a lot of great things that I think, you know, we should really look at standardizing across the board. So I mean, it was a really good event, and you know, and taking into account everything that's being said as well, I think we should bring these up to the stakeholders as well and say, listen, how can we make this bigger and better when we do version 2.0?
but just to advertise the current video.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely, we can definitely do that, so, we should do that, so, what? Yeah, it's on YouTube, it is on YouTube, so I mean,
No, it's mad.
Direct people so they can see
No,
it.
imagine,
You can probably
every,
link folks to it in the WhatsApp channel too. I
imagine,
want that to
every
be a
time I
sort of
come
a
here, I
easy
bring
start.
flyers, and here's the board. The watching me, where it was held.
no, it's perfect, it was a great event. Okay. All right, any other questions?
No, that's it.
No, we need, that's even no more questions?
Oh, no, oh, that's it.
No
I
more
would
questions,
just
no more
say,
questions.
no, I would just say the next is our Careers Day, and I said May 31st. So please keep your ears out. You know, then check. It's out. Everything is always on the CB9 blast. So please see it there, so you would know where it's happening. And if you want to put any suggestions, you would know.
So great, perfect. All right, so thank you very much. No action, but we're looking out for those. Transportation.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing pretty good today. Oh, yep. So I'm trying to keep this quick, but we did a lot in the last meeting. We had a presentation from DOT about Eastern Parkway line changes. They're gonna make some lane changes so that the B17 and B14 buses don't have to drive in the service road as much. They're kind of shifting where those buses move so they can, move in the main travel lanes as opposed to the service, because that way they move faster, they get stopped by traffic less, and they just have an easier time getting to the destination. They're going to be shifting bus stops more than the inside of the street, and they're going to be reconfiguring the street in some pretty minor ways so that personal traffic doesn't get held up by the bus and vice versa. We didn't vote on anything regarding that, but we did ask some questions, and they answered most of them. They answered all pretty well. We didn't have any issues. In some cases, they also want to change the sidewalk material to essentially be the hexagonal like platters. Those shapes. Mainly because when they shift, it isn't as difficult to walk on as the larger slabs. It's less of a hazard for tripping and that kind of thing too, and it's more accessible. And that's the other part of the presentation. They were trying to improve accessibility for those bus stops. So it would mainly be, I believe, eastbound on Eastern Parkway, closer to the Rochester, Schenectady area. And they're also going to be removing, I think, the Rochester stop on, I believe, the B14, because it's the least used out of those three. And they're going to be adjusting the two bus stops on either side of it, and it also helps them sort of equalize the space between those bus stops too. So they're going to remove one bus stop on those. Yeah, I think we voted on that. Apart from that, we approved the sidewalk cafe application for House and Stubble on 1184 North Street Avenue. We didn't make any changes or comments to it. We thought it was fine. We approved it outright.
What was that application?
It was for a sidewalk cafe for House and Stubble, the beer garden on North Street Avenue in Fenimore.
House.
House and Stubble, H-A-S-E-N.
House and Stubble,
H-A-S-E-N.
What's the other word?
Or
I
HASC?
know it, but I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember it.
yeah.
The German space.
Yes.
Yep.
They've never had a authorization because they already had an outdoor space for them.
They didn't.
Yeah, I
need
thought-
it. It only started this year, so the first year is going to be mostly businesses that had it before, but now since they have to apply, they're going to apply for what they already had before.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but then-
Yeah, we're expecting everybody else to apply too. Everybody else who had an outdoor space. And they're all the same as what we've seen, so there's no surprises. And it's generally easy to approve right away if it looks like what we're accustomed to. And in this case, it was the same thing that they've had before, so no changes and no surprises.
Do they have to use certain, I'm sorry, you didn't finish.
You can ask them.
Do they have to use certain materials, or is it gonna be enclosed?
Well, it
or-
needs to be removable. It can't be permanent.
Okay,
Because they take it down, I think, in November, I believe, when it's nearing winter. So yeah, no. I've seen some people just put chairs and tables out, and others have like a fence and everything. Like you can build the sheds that are heavy like before, but they just need to be removable. And so far, no sheds. It's just been either like tables and chairs, like in the case of Maggie's counter, or in some cases it's like heavier tables and like actual wooden benches, like in the Dog Bandits case. But no one's. I don't think we've seen a like full like COVID style shed come back.
No, these are sidewalk cafes or these are in the street?
Sidewalk cafes. Those are roadway cafes.
Okay.
We haven't seen a roadway cafe application yet. They've all been sidewalk.
Next to that institution.
Yeah. On community fair planning, we were considering doing our last year routine because it went pretty well, and it's a good combination of listening to the community and also, you know, sort of talking to them, because, you know, we think there's some value in the balance there. We're not doing official surveys, but we do want to hear what folks have to say, you know, and sort of, you know, be an ear and also a mouth in case they want to learn more about this stuff in the first place. So we're gonna add to that is we're looking to request DOT's presence to see if they can do a bike helmet giveaway or just something that can be a little bit larger scale and give people, you know, some more of a benefit as opposed to, you know, last year we gave reflectors out. If you could get, you know, like if you can amplify that a little bit and give out something more, that would be nice. And we know that it takes a while, so we have to let them know in advance. So we're trying to get that happening from now if possible. Because you wouldn't have to pay for it. That's always nice. So we're starting that one early. Moving on, the other topic we tackled was there's a proposed open street application from, I think, Feast, but all they did was send us a boilerplate letter of support. It basically said, like, your name here supports this, so we denied it because it wasn't anything of substance. So in future, if I see an application like that come with no information about it, I will not put it on the agenda. But that's one thing that happened.
Where was it from?
It was from Feast. They're active in the community. They actually do good things from what I've seen, but they hosted like different events and stuff like that. So provide services to the community. But this was just like a sort of a nothing application. So next time, I mean, I think we should also like reach out and let them know that we saw the application. If they have any information of what they expect to do, we'd like to see it. So, you know, we had a little bit of an issue with the lack of detail because we didn't even know if we were to sign on to that, we wouldn't even know what it would entail. It's just you support this street, this open street, and it's like include, you know, entity name at the end. We didn't know what that was. So next time, just get some more information when they apply.
It was not a meeting on it, that's what you're saying. Because we wasn't told about it, there wasn't enough information, it wasn't brought to our table for us to discuss.
Right, there was nothing on the paper was essentially empty.
Right.
There was nothing there. So next on that, we had a discussion about Rogers Avenue. If people in the community have been seeing some incidents happen there, from what, if I can recall correctly, a staffer at Brian King's office saw someone die in that intersection.
Car accident?
Yeah, a car accident.
Where was that?
Where was that?
Rogers and Empire, right? The intersection where the office is.
Really?
Yeah. And they sent an email about it. If I can find it, I'll share. But when they had come, you know, the body was covered, so it wasn't.
This was somebody on a bike?
Huh?
Somebody on a bike?
Someone who works in assembly person's office.
Oh, really?
Empire Rogers?
No, the person who
What?
died or the person?
Not the person who died. The person who saw it.
Well,
Who
maybe
observed
saw it.
it. Yeah, no.
Staffer.
No, the staffer wasn't injured. The staffer just was in the area and managed to see it. And it, you know, brought up a discussion about whether there should be a pedestrian refuge island on the eastern side of that intersection, because people can drive pretty fast there on both sides, because Rogers is like you have a lane sort of being removed, so people kind of jockey for space when they're crossing Empire, and then it's Empire, so folks sometimes try to beat the light. I'm not sure how the accident happened, but it is an area that we like to keep safe. And we noticed a lot of the other intersections like Nostra and Kingston, Droid, they have those islands on the eastern side, but Rogers doesn't. So we voted to get a letter sent to DOT, asking if they could install one, and also asking if they could, like it might be a resolution actually based on cover, but essentially we wanted to ask DOT to install one at that location, and if they could explain why they determined they didn't need one, why there isn't one now. So there was that. And another part of that was if it isn't practical to install one there, we'd still want them to explore other safety options for that intersection. Yeah. And I mean, I always like to be proactive instead of see an accident and say, oh, maybe we should make it safe. But this is a situation where I think their response is pretty standard.
Does DOT have any safety data about that? Is that a
Yeah,
hotspot?
that's gonna be my question.
It's, so I checked from what I saw, it is one of the hotspots by Empire, but it's not a hotspot for fatalities. I didn't see the fatality recorded there in our crash mapper site. But there were some incidents at that intersection. And I mean, the big streets like Eastern Parkway and Empire tend to have accidents because people tend to drive a little fast down there. But it's not, from what I've seen, it isn't a fatality hotspot. But it's not significantly safer compared to any of the other intersections like Nostra and Kingston and New York Avenue. So I don't see a reason for it to not have, a pedestrian island there.
I have a couple questions, but maybe let you finish your report.
Okay. Don't forget them.
One question is that
Well,
please
go ahead, finish
clarify the area from Empire and,
Rogers.
oh, no, I thought so, okay.
Yeah, where the gas station is.
Yeah,
Person
I
was
don't know if
crossing
you got space for
Empire.
all that stuff.
The person was crossing Empire when he got hit.
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
He's not sure.
Did you investigate the accident or figure out what caused it? Was it, if this is not a space that has a record for accidents, could there have been an extenuating circumstance that may have prompted, an individual incident that wouldn't necessarily warrant a permanent change, such as, not to say that pedestrian walkways are dope, but I'm just saying, it's kind of reactionary without actually having evidentiary support.
Yeah.
Lead that direction. Did you investigate the accident? What happened?
No, I didn't see it. It's not, I don't know how recent it is. I don't know if it's like an older story or like a very recent one. So it's not even in the crash data just yet. I assume it might be added soon as these reports move through. But yeah, it's not even there necessarily as an accident for me to investigate. If I wanted to, I could ask about it, but I didn't something like I was trying to see the data first and I didn't see it yet.
How long ago was that?
So you're right when you say that, you can ask about it and they can talk to you about it. But if you're not a part of the accident, they will not give you that information. Because I went there myself and I asked them, they said they would tell me, but because I'm not a part of the accident, they can't give me any documentation without it being formally requested through CB9
Okay.
or a FOIL.
Right.
But from experience, even I've lived there a long time, the most I've ever seen around is people shooting at each other by the gas station. Seldom, a motor vehicle accident, even in Carnival.
What time you go around there?
2 a.m. or 2 p.m.
2 a.m.
or 2 p.m.
You know, my kids always say, Mama, around there's something in the gas station, Yeah, but not really vehicular accidents to an extent that you would complain.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen two personally. Most of them, the bold accidents I saw there personally were two cars that were trying to merge.
Right on, yeah.
People who were in the bus lane were trying to come over before they get to the parked cars.
Yeah, people want to come around the bus and turn or. But that's not accident, that's stupid driving.
It is. I just want to be clear, when I said I asked the 71st precinct. I literally went there.
But it may be a deal. Okay, well, I'll tell you, are you finished? Any more items? Or?
I do have another item. It is the last one. We discussed the half marathon, the marathon routes in the area. and we noticed that many of them take up a portion of Washington Avenue as their either starting or finishing point. And I mean, the way that they set up that segment of Washington Avenue for the race looks pretty disabling to a lot of residents there, because there isn't much you can do here. You're essentially fenced in, and you know, people are complaining about that because they're fenced in for hours, and in some cases, like a day or two before the race, you know, cars need to move, and there doesn't seem to be much accommodation for those who live in the area, because it's not like they're fencing off like a warehouse street or like, you know, Eastern Parkway, where there are, you know, service roads you could use. And people had the same issue during the West Indian Day Parade, I think 2 years ago or last year, where people who lived on Eastern Parkway couldn't get to their houses because they were fenced off and weren't allowed to jump the fence or pass through. Same thing's happening here in Washington Avenue. And we're just getting a myriad of complaints about those. So we also voted to send a letter to the New York Roadrunners board, essentially, and outline the issues involved with those races and the fact that they are on Washington Avenue, where folks live, and see if they can explore moving that segment of the route to Eastern Parkway or Empire Boulevard, or even just in Prospect Park. See how they can reconfigure it so it doesn't cause as much inconvenience to people that, you know, just live there. Like, they didn't sign up for that. And I mean, I understand that it's a city and, you know, it brings in revenue, like it's part of living in a city, but it doesn't make sense that they essentially, you know, have it on a residential block and essentially set it up to be as oppressive as possible to those who live there, so they can't function while it's happening. So that was the last item that we wanted to do that.
It's very oppressive. What they used to do is have it in Prospect Park. So I don't know who decided to put it on Washington Avenue, where they perhaps feel that they wanted an audience. It's such an inconvenience and such a danger to us. It's just unreal.
We should also acknowledge that not every race that they host happens on Washington Avenue. Some of them are in the park entirely. Some of them stay there. Some of them don't go to Washington. But for maybe, I think the half mile one, for certain races, they do extend the route into Washington Avenue. So for whatever reason, we'd like to find that out and see if they could either move it or fix the issues so that people have no issue with the race, or both. So yeah.
The Brooklyn half starts on excuse me, Washington Avenue, and the United half also. Then you have the other company, NYC runs, that also, no, they start in Williamsburg and they end in Prospect Park, but they go down, down Eastern Parkway, come around. That one is the one that's next week, I believe. That one goes to Kingston, maybe, or Brooklyn, and comes back around into the park. It's there.
It tends to be the half. I think this was the half.
The halves, yeah, the halves.
Yeah, that's what the 5Ks didn't do that.
No, the
I don't-
5Ks
the
are in
marathons didn't do
the,
it either.
excuse me, right.
That's self-contained in the park.
Yeah, the 5Ks are in the park, the 5Ks are in the park, the half marathons are on the street.
Yeah, usually I think that's like the staging area, like they kick off from there.
Yeah,
and
they
go
kick
back
off
to
from
the
there,
route
yeah.
from
Yeah.
there.
They go into the park for Washington Avenue, so they go up, I think, to Eastern Parkway and they go across.
Alright,
Who's in charge of approving the permits? Is it DOT or is it like,
it's the city,
mayor's
it's the city
office
sample,
of,
it's
like,
probably my,
X?
Probably mayor's office.
Mayor's office. Alright, I got a couple of things, with regards to your report. Alright, so for the action items, I know we have the sidewalk cafe we're gonna vote on.
Easiest one.
Alright, you said that there was a letter that you wanted sent?
We ran out of time before we could vote on that, but we're gonna go through, you know, DOT and Citibank and see if they can move that, because we already have the resolution out. We can get, yeah,
Okay.
no. Yeah, we're gonna, that's a problem spot, that's a problem spot, that bike is in a bad place.
I'm bothering Ethan about the bikes in
Oh,
front
on
of
Sterling?
307 Sterling Street.
Yeah, like it's a objectively bad place to put them,
It's a horrible place,
so.
right at the corner where the cars turn.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've been getting DOT to come in person to see us every month, almost every month now. So I think it's gonna be pretty easy to get them to just put some attention there and shift that, cause you're not asking to like just delete it, you're asking to
No,
like
just
shift
move
it
it.
across to a better place.
Just
Which
move it
is-
down the block.
Very reasonable. Yeah, that's fine.
Alright. Okay, sidewalk cafe is gonna be a vote.
So when they want to think about.
Let me see, now,
Second.
a couple things that they have questions
Yeah.
with regards to. Now, for the post, open street, with fees, so now I understand that the committee voted not to support, but now what happens with the application, because, so what is the application process? Because what kind of is, interesting to me is that, you know, I don't know much about fees, but I don't know what their connection is to the specific place that they live. I know for most other street activities, if you're doing things like that, usually you have to get, you know,
Yes, permission.
petitions and you get a whole bunch of other stuff.
People.
Yeah,
I don't believe that's happened with this one, and part of my concern becomes, okay, well, listen, they're asking for a letter of support, which sounds different than, okay, we need to approve something.
yeah.
So even if we didn't give a letter of support, this is something that could still go ahead depending on how this application process. So do we understand how this open street works? Like, do we have to have a board approval?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Yeah,
Because that might be something where it's like, yeah, we may not move on it, but it still might go forward if we don't say something affirmatively where it's like, yes, we're in support, or no, don't do it.
okay, good point.
Right.
Yeah, the open street process is not the same as like having a block party.
That's what I'm figuring.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I understand, you don't need signatures to do it.
No, you apply it and then.
You apply, Yeah, you apply for it, and I think, from what I understand, board approval helps. I need to look into it again, because the information's kind of scarce about it in some cases. And I gotta see, like,
We should probably look into that one
We
because
should.
I don't want something to pop, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily say we support it, but I don't want something to happen that is not in the interest of the neighborhood and the community
Agreed.
neighbors.
Yeah.
So let's
But we
look into
don't-
that one. Let's talk to Dante and let's
Yeah.
get.
Well,
just-
Dante should know about it. He forwarded the application to me.
Right.
So I think he knew.
But those are the
the
additional
background.
questions. I think we need to contact DOT
Yeah.
directly about open streets and how that process works.
Right.
Again, because I didn't want something to go through that if there's not support from the community.
Especially, we don't know the location of where they wanna close the street.
Right.
Well,
No,
it was Montgomery between Bedford and Rogers, I believe.
No.
That's your block, isn't it?
The joke's on the chair. Yeah.
Open
Yeah.
streets.
Because
Open
I've
streets,
never
what I
heard of
know
open street
is that
here,
you-
I mean, in this
Yeah,
community.
let's say if you
know,
wanna
because
have
I've
an
heard
open
of it, it's mostly
But it's
pressure
it's
on
too-
Vanderbilt Avenue. And somebody was complaining, how come we don't have any of those open streets in this
Yes.
area?
No,
So
see,
some
here's the
people
thing,
make a
it's
point.
not a matter of, I'm categorically opposed to open streets, but I'm usually for open streets where people want an open street. So I mean, if it's something that's been moved by a block association or something like that, or something that's local and people have signed off on that. I mean, I get it, listen, you know, people don't like the detours and all this other stuff, but if the block wants it and they've all supported it and they give that case, that's fine. Like I said, this was kind of surprising me in terms of it's right on my block. I know I haven't supported it, and I don't think I know any neighbors who supported it. So I'm trying to figure out where is this being driven from,
Right.
and what is the purpose of this open street? What is it? So what are you doing? So you close the street, but what are you doing there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think those are questions that I think need to be answered, and I want to definitely make sure we don't set a precedent where it's like, okay, I can get 10 friends, and we're just going to go close down Mill Street right over here in front of the board just because we feel like that.
Yeah.
So I think we need more clarity on that. We should be a little bit more, you know, we should be moving forward with that and have more conversations. I'm definitely not happy even with the way that happened, where it's like, okay, they send you a blank form letter for a letter of support and don't even give you the courtesy of coming in.
Correct.
That's not cool either.
Definitely.
So there's some open questions with that. I definitely want to make sure we take offline. We should get more information, but we should do it timely too, because these applications have a way of just going through. All of a sudden, they're approved and they're on your block before you even know anything happened.
I agree.
So that's for one.
on that.
The other piece, I just wanted to ask this question, well, more of a statement. With regards to the Rogers Avenue incident, I mean, obviously, you always hate to hear that. I would definitely like more information in terms of if we have, what is the crash data around there, what's the safety issues? And I would like for us to be educated in terms of, if there is an issue there, what are the options for that? How do we remedy it? I don't want to necessarily say I'm jumping right on board in terms of get a pedestrian island. It may or may not I don't know, sometimes I think, DOT has warrants, like there are certain things they use for calming, for safety or traffic calming. I would rather know what's available.
Yeah.
If there's truly an issue, that's, okay, fine, there's an issue, what do we have available that does that? And we can kind of grade that in terms of what's the least intrusive, but keeps people alive and okay, listen, we have full metal gates where people go through or whatever else.
Yeah.
But I think we should at least know what the options are with respect to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually our process, and
Right.
on the committee, we usually, try to even lay out options that we would like to see and have the DOT pick one or pick two.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's the
we're
thing,
currently
you'd
trying-
rather, and that's what I'm saying, as opposed to saying this is what we'd like to see, let's understand what the issues are and then what the options are. So they give us a tray of what the options are, we can say, oh, okay, listen, this looks good, or this is gonna accomplish what we need. But I'd like to proceed from the least intrusive, so it's like, what's the stuff that's gonna make it, you don't have to do a whole bunch of construction on Rogers Avenue or Empire Boulevard to make it safer, we can do certain things.
So you really wanna know what happened, what was the issue?
What happened, and then how do we cure it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that can be.
And if it's really an issue, then how do we cure it, what's the best way to cure it?
Okay.
So I think there's some additional information we could probably get with that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If the driver has 36 suspensions on his license, I'm going to know as well.
Yeah, there's nothing a pedestrian is gonna do for that. There's nothing, and you're absolutely right, there's nothing a
I mean,
pedestrian.
actually, they might not drive on,
That's my
drive on
thing.
the island to hit it. Like, they might, it could probably actually help you, if someone's drunk, it could get you away from them and not allow the car to hit you as much as the danger you would have been in had that island not have been there. Possibly.
No,
You know, I mean, islands aren't there for you to be nice to them. They do help bad driving, mitigate damage. So, I mean,
Well, yeah,
if the suspensions actually, the bad driving could be, mitigated
right,
by an
but,
island, I guess.
but I don't wanna cure a problem that doesn't necessarily exist.
Right,
And that's what I'm saying, I think the data will kind of help us in terms of understanding how bad it is.
yeah.
I mean, listen, we call them accidents for a reason, sometimes it was just an accident. So that's possible. If there are 10 or 15 of them, no, that's not accidents anymore, there's an issue that we need to address. But I'm just saying, it's like, we just get some more information for that, and that'll kind of help us in terms of making the appropriate requests in terms of DOT, in terms of what we want them to do. So, but once they give us the data, we can make those decisions. And again, to the point where we drive the bus by asking for the data, and then once we get the data and we get the options, we will request what it is we want to have there. So, I guess really following the process you've already set, so that's fine. The last piece I have, and this is with regards to the half marathon, it's funny because this is a conversation that keeps coming up. I definitely understand, and I feel for the neighbors who are on Washington Avenue, because it's something that happens every year with every event. And
3 years straight.
I mean, listen, and to the point, I think, Ethan said it too, and it's not just the marathons, it's like every time they have the parade and everything else, or whatever they do, they find the way to do this in the most intrusive way on Washington Avenue. I want us to be able to do better, and I think part of the problem is, and a problem is the fact that, you know what, we get the memo saying this thing is happening, as opposed to we are invited to the meeting saying, by the way, we're thinking about doing this. And what input can we provide, or, in terms of making sure that this is something that's not as intrusive. Now, does that mean we never have the half marathon over there? I don't know if we get to that point, but I think there's things that we can do better in terms of making sure, and even if it's a matter of between notice, and if it's a matter of you're there for the least amount of time, where you get in and you get out of town real quick.
We're not asking them not to have a marathon, we're asking them to put the marathon back where it was. Because it's very intrusive, okay, we don't like it, we don't like fenced in, a top fence, then you have another fence that's in front of a fire hydrant. If there's an emergency, God forbid, okay, ambulance can't get in there, the fire department can't get in, okay? If, God forbid, the police have to get in, okay? So we're looking at safety, this is a safety issue.
No, absolutely.
Okay, and it's horrendous, you can't even, the elderlies, the handicaps, they can't even get service. Okay, what are you doing? Okay, we're not telling them to stop, we're telling them to put it back.
But that's a conversation I think we need to. Sure, let me just finish this one point, and then absolutely. But I think that's the reason why we need to be there at the planning stage of this conversation.
Right, so
we can
what
get those things done.
What I understood was that there was something wrong with the Brooklyn Bridge and they were doing it based on distance. So now that the fixture of the Brooklyn Bridge is, I don't know if it's completed or not, I don't know, but, so I don't know, okay, we all pay our taxes, we all wanna live a quality life and to have the Star Spangled Banner stated 6 o'clock in the morning okay? Go say, can you see at the top of your voice at 6 in the morning, for God's sake, are you kidding me? No, stop, it's madness. You know, everybody's looking at each other, what's going on?
Well, here's the thing. Again, I think this is the reason why we need to be there at the beginning. We need to be able to discuss what options exist. And let me just throw this out. You know what, if you're gonna inconvenience me, you can at least pay for some speed cameras up and down my street.
Not just this, but you know, the cars are being, towed and
And that,
damaged.
no, and
Cars
that
are
too,
being, yes,
and that, no,
people are looking
absolutely.
for their cars, we have correction officers, we have teachers, we even have nurses and doctors, and they work in different shifts, okay, this is such a great inconvenience, you have no idea.
It is, and but here's the thing, and to those things, this is where it opens up conversations. Okay, fine, if I can't park on there, then guess what, in one of these nice buildings you're building, get me free parking for a day, so I can just put my car in and I don't have to worry about it getting towed or whatever else. Or you know what, you can open up, Sarah Barton or whatever else, so guess what, normally I can't park there, but I can at least put my car there and not have to worry about it getting towed or the tow truck's doing whatever it does. Now, all of that stuff, not to say I advocate any of it, but I think that there's a lot of things we should be able to put on the table. But none of that happens if we're never even at the table.
And then the money that they're receiving, does it come to our community?
It doesn't, and
No.
we should be asking.
No.
Which is why I was being tongue in cheek, but no.
Vince,
Yes.
the money, I'm sure, is not coming to the community, but that is also part of the community's problem. The roadrunners that I know of, they have partnerships with different communities where certain schools do things with their different events, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But you have to have a volunteer to say, hey, I'm gonna take the school over and have these runners. Someone in the community, they're not gonna send, because the roadrunners are made mostly of volunteers. There aren't a lot, there are plenty of paid staff, but not at the level of people coming into the community and doing these things. So if we wanted to have a group for the children at any of the schools, we would have to do it ourselves and partner with them. Where they do things where they give free sneakers, they give them free races, so on and so forth. But we would have to be the ones to initiate that and say, hey, I'll open up this
I
chapter.
think that's
The
beautiful.
same thing with the seniors, they have something for seniors in all the other parks except for Prospect Park, because our community hasn't approached them and said, hey, we wanna open that up. So that's up
I
to
think
us
that's
in the
beautiful.
parks.
But what if I just want free sneakers? Without anything?
I think it's
Well,
beautiful,
that's
but not on
But-
Washington
but-
Avenue.
But not
I
on
think
Washington
that's
Avenue,
beautiful.
I understand that we have to do that, but one of the things that I'm a member, my run club, I'm a part of the race committee there. The races that we put on in the park, we put on different races in the park throughout the year. Those are approved a year before. So anything that we're talking about now, it's not gonna change. We have to have the conversation now
And
for
yes.
next year.
Correct.
Because our races, like the races that, we have races starting at the end of May. Those were approved not this January, I mean, they were approved last September, I believe, not even January of this year.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna go to the roadrunners and say, hey, you need to change this, we have to have a conversation now.
Well,
I
let me,
love you, so you know you would help.
let me ask
That's
this.
fine, that's fine.
Since we have a little bit of inside baseball, the Roadrunners, so the organizations, absolutely. What other city agencies are a part of that conversation? I'm
It's,
sure NYPD is in there.
all of them, before we even, just,
They
I'm
said
just talking about
sorry.
our little races, like 1,000 people. Those races, we usually meet with a detective because they're gonna have, security in the park. We meet with the vendors, there's certain things we're not allowed to do in the city park. That's part of the reason why I'm sure that they don't have the start in the park. Like they don't have, like the music part, they don't play music in the park. The Parks Department doesn't allow certain things. They don't allow,
They
just-
allow it on Washington Avenue.
no, they allow it on the city street because it's public, but even though the park is public, there's certain things, like even for our park, for our races, we're not allowed to do in the park. So I'm sure that's why they start on the street.
No, it's been 3 years now. I was
Yeah, but
raised
there's
here.
certain things like
Yeah, I was-
vendors that are not allowed in the park, they're not
I
supposed to
was
have.
raised here.
Well, that was
So I pretty much.
Okay.
But I'll say this, I know those
But it
issues,
starts,
these issues have gotten
Well, it's,
longer.
it's a large
That's what I'm saying.
conversation that has to be taken.
And now's the time to start the
What
conversation.
I'm
Yeah.
suggesting is that this particular organization that are running this event within the community board should come and present it to us.
They used to.
They used to,
They
yeah,
used
they've come here before.
But then
That's
we have to
one of
make the
my
translation and
Well,
then
and-
come back
well, here's the
again.
thing, but
So I mean, if
but
we-
even
if
more-
it's something we're talking about.
but even more to
it's-
Mina's point, you have to have that conversation way in advance.
No, that's the
They
point I
make
wanna
it
make, that's.
exactly
Even a month or
Yeah,
two
yeah.
before, all they're
No, no,
doing
that's
is telling
today.
you it's coming.
Yeah.
That's too late. You're talking about that conversation.
Yeah.
If you're planning for next year, let's have the conversation.
Right, because
now.
obviously
So
then there's a
let-
meeting.
yeah.
So that obviously there's a meeting that happens that we are not aware of. And that's where we need
As
to
soon
be.
as
But
this race is
should
over,
we be
they start
aware of
planning
it
the
then?
next
Are we
race.
aware?
But I would think
It's
that by
not
now the
like
races
this
are
way.
all scheduled at a certain
No,
time.
not if they don't have the permits from the city.
Right.
Like, if you go on the Roadrunners website right now, for the races for the rest of the year, they're not approved yet because the city hasn't approved them. So you can't
Okay.
even
Talk about
buy
it.
a spot,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't even register.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
right now, for anything from September through December,
So
they're
then this
not.
is a good time to,
For
So not
September through December.
yeah, but
You know?
It's not gonna
They're
fix
not
the
sure
one for
if they
next
get-
month.
It's
So
not
we're
gonna
gonna
fix the
come
one
up
for
with-
next month.
and then
And
that's
I
not
don't
there on the
expect it to.
calendar.
yes.
All right, and I apologize. I want to make sure that, you know, we're having some very lively
Thank you.
conversations.
This is
but
very
we're
good.
doing it.
Thank you, thank you.
Suki, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Very quickly, you don't wanna answer, okay. But on the subject of things that might get passed, this, there's a bill before the city council right now for universal daylighting,
Yeah.
meaning the parking spaces and corners would be removed throughout the city. There's also this bill at the state level that you told us about. So, you know, again, I think it behooves us to understand what the parking situation in our district is. I mean, I think we all feel it, but to have the numbers, I think, would be helpful, because this, you know, I don't know if this bill is gonna pass or not, but it's being considered.
I'm
You
pretty
think
sure,
that
I'm
daylight,
pretty sure.
I think it passed
I'm pretty
because I
sure it'll
think we got Joseph just,
For the
oh,
news daily?
I
I
don't
think
know
I'm like
if Joseph
70% sure it's
endorsed
passed.
it, or is it passed, yeah,
It's
something in the news there.
there's been a hearing in the city council, it has not been voted on by
Yeah,
the full
it's been
council.
voted on.
Yeah, it hasn't been voted on yet, but.
For all of the corners?
Yeah, well, everything, every corner of the city.
Throughout the city. That is a lot of parking spaces.
Yes.
So do you know the feet, the distance requirement, is it 15 or is it gonna be more like 5 or 10?
I don't know,
Okay.
but this is something I think we should find out about, and we should see how it's gonna affect our district, given the existing situation.
Yeah.
And how do they deal with that? Plus, if there's a hydrant on the sidewalk, is the whole sidewalk
No,
taken,
no, I
the
think
whole
it'll,
corner
I think it'll, it's not,
encompassed?
it's gonna like stack, so it'll, the hydrants are not, it's not gonna add more to
Okay.
the corner. I think it'll make those corner hydrants like better, because it'll be less waste of space, you know? Cause now, no one will park there anyway, you can still stand there, you just can't like leave your car there for a long term. Which would be that big a deal, it wouldn't make that worse. But if the hydrant is like a couple spots in from the corner, well then that's gonna be a big chunk of sidewalk, of curb space gone.
All right, so I got the one action item. So remind me when we're doing the agenda, just let me know if there's any other board action items.
And
So,
one quick comment. Going back to the letter of support,
Okay, Catherine, second.
Yeah,
just looked it
the
up.
open street,
yeah,
I did too.
okay, it said, what, at least 3 letters of support from community stakeholders, including but not limited to adjacent property owners, businesses, nearby institutions, yada, 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 yada. So
Yeah.
that's why they reached out.
So what in the whole context of it, what it sounds like, based on how DOT describes the process, is they say that essentially DOT approves it. And the only mention I see of community boards is that DOT informs them of after it's been approved, right? What'll help them get it approved is if they have support letters from, you know, businesses, community boards, that kind of stuff. So it seems like we're more of a stepping stone than an approver in this situation.
So yeah, so we need to do something tonight. All right, I wanna make sure I know, you know, great conversations, but we need to move this along as well. So we have, I believe, 3 more committees. So housing, we've got you, parks, we've got you, and then we have public safety as well. Is anybody else missing as well? Any other committees?
Health, we have a.
I'm sorry?
Health and social services.
Health and social, but they're not here.
They're not here.
Tom's
Okay.
So we'll, unless they had
Yes,
any
we
action,
will.
items, we'll deal with them. All right, so let's do this. So Mr. Almanor, go ahead first, and then we're gonna have helpers.
Well, we have no action items.
You repeat?
I have to run.
So then, let's change the order. First of all, so let me do this appropriately. We're gonna bring housing up, but I think the great announcement that I wanna say is that, we have appointed, co-chairs for the rest of this year. And they've done a phenomenal job already. I wanna everyone to, I wanna publicly thank Jolie Cobb and Maya Lee, who are serving as our co-chairs for housing.
Yay.
Nice.
So if you wanna give a brief report, if you just wanna make a couple of comments very quickly, go ahead.
We met on April 8th, and we discussed, for the most part, maybe starting a district housing profile, just to set policy. We need to see the different demographics in the neighborhood, discuss AMI, can't read my handwriting, bands, family size, hours, the house preliminary estimates of income, and just to look to see what's going on in the community with housing.
So we're gonna get a housing profile for the diversity.
Yeah. That's all.
And this kind of goes along with Suki, what you've been saying as well in terms of what those are. And just to kind of, well, actually, Jolie, I know you're on top, actually. Do you want to say a couple words as well, or anything you want to add?
I guess more so we already have Data Explorer and pretty intensive demographic that's already available. So I think the direction is really finding what's relevant and what will be necessary for any kind of housing or land use. I think that is important, yes, but I also think doing a developer database would be pretty instrumental and something that could redirect the focus and kind of charter or document the development that's already happened and the development that's soon to come. This gives us an idea of the different organizations, if there's any trends in certain areas, things that could also be really helpful for communities to kind of identify what the development will look like and has looked like throughout the district, because sometimes that data is a little bit more skewed versus demographic information is readily available on almost any NYC American Census data. So I think it would be awesome to network and collaborate that relevant information can be streamlined. But if we're looking to do like community surveys that provide a different narrative or a different perspective on demographic information and something more directed towards housing, I think that would be a great use of time. But you do keep saying till the end of the year, so it's only this month and next month, or 2 months. So I guess it just depends on what we can finish in the 2 months.
Well, let me backtrack, and I apologize for, definitely I don't wanna put the pressure on you where you're gonna cure every disease in the next 60 days. That's not fair to even say, we put that expectation. But absolutely, I think the work that you're doing is great, and it's going to be something that we're going to continue. And this is for all the committees. Understanding there's going to be some things that are going to be in flight. We're going to start them, we won't finish them this year, but absolutely, I want to make sure that we're able to document them and keep the momentum going. So these are things we're able to start. We don't finish it, but we want to make sure it's still top of mind, so that way when we reassemble in September, we're able to keep going and building on this stuff, so we can get these things to fruition. So absolutely, I love everything that's been said with that. Definitely just get that together, and we set that up in terms of the next steps in the evolution of what we're doing with housing. Absolutely, and I'm glad to hear that there's a lot of great stuff that I'm hearing being discussed between housing and for land use. And at the right time, I want to make sure that we're able to get together and have those conversations and share and cross-pollinate as well. So we'll see how that works out. What's the best way for that to happen? Have those communications. One last point. Just to make sure everybody. Lien sale, everybody. Lien sale, 5/20. Make sure. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, and everything like that. The district office is supposed to be working on hopefully trying to get a postcard that we can send out to people who are on there. Again, my sensitivity is always towards, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I don't want us door knocking on people. I'm hearing people talking about, I heard you have a lien sale going on, and I'm here to save you. We don't need to do that. We want to make sure that we get the communication out so that way people understand all those envelopes you may have missed or ignored. Don't ignore them, because this may potentially cost you your house. So we want to make sure that we're doing that as well. So the district office is working on that. We're going to try and get that out. But please make sure that in whatever places you are plugged in and whatever networks you are involved in, please give that information and say, listen, if you know anybody who potentially might be in there, there are places to get help. All right, so we just want to make sure we're doing that. But again, I wanted to thank Mina for stepping up and doing that along with Jolie as well. Okay.
One comment,
Sure, please.
not necessarily about housing, but at the borough president's State of the City, he discussed that there was going to be some sort of probably centralized place for us community boards to get information.
It's
Is-
a charter reform that he's proposing that,
Just the charter reform?
I
'Cause
mean, it's
thought
a proposal, we don't know what is going to end up on the ballot, we don't know, right now, I mean, his office is responsible for the community board.
No, but the way it came across to me was that he was going to have somewhere for the community board to go for this kind of information instead of everyone doing things.
His proposal is for like a centralized community board.
Yes, that's.
It's a proposal.
Oh, it's just a,
Sounds
so I
great.
missed, okay, so I was,
Yeah.
What's that
I didn't hear.
proposal? I haven't heard about it.
It's more or less in terms of basically, you know, the one thing that all community boards share is that we are chronically understaffed. We just don't have the resources to do a lot of the kind of work that you want to do. The borough president has said, listen, it's like, you know, as much as I want to support 18 boards in Brooklyn, I can't do it either. I don't have that kind of staff. So what he's saying is, it makes more sense for the city to just develop an agency that actually is charged with doing that.
Oh,
So you can hire planners, you can hire people who do support, you can hire people who do real estate and all that other stuff. Staff it centrally so that way they're able to support all the boards
okay.
in that way. So that's the concept that they're working on, but again, I think it's the concept. They're trying to push through the charter establishment and, you know. see
And
what
that
happens.
has to go through the charter revision process.
That would,
Right.
Yes.
all right, we'll take the two questions, hold on, so Suki and then we'll take. Go ahead, Suki.
So I was wondering if housing is looking at the existing, not just the demographic profile, but also the existing housing profile in the
That's-
community, in terms of, what type of affordable housing exists, what type of regulated housing exists. You know, cause we've got everything from the rent regulated buildings to specific, affordable housing buildings that are managed by a nonprofit or an HDFC or something. There's like a couple of NYCHA, you know, and also just in terms of understanding like how much of the district is, say, 1 to 3 family houses, how much of it is, you know, multifamily, things like that.
I think that's what we had in mind when we were
Okay.
thinking of doing the district housing
And,
profile.
the Equitable Development Data Explorer from, which I think City Planning did a few years ago, is a very helpful tool. It has a lot of information on like how much housing is available that's affordable to people at different income bands. But it was put together in 2021, and I don't know if it's been updated since then.
What is it called?
The Equitable Development Data Explorer. I've sent this out to my committee a few times. I'm sure that your committee is aware of it or has looked at it. But I don't believe it's been updated since 2021, and I think the people who worked on that might be, I don't know if that project is essentially terminated or not, but you may wanna ask if that can be updated. I'm sure HPD actually, I don't know where their data came from, if it came from the census or HPD or whatever, but, I'm sure that there can be updates to that.
Offline, if you could you reshare that information?
Yes.
Send it over. So we can take a look at it, and how's it take a look at it? I'm sorry, you had a question.
Oh, so my question is if you're looking at that, but it sounds like you are, and I'm sure
Okay.
HPD has, you know, whatever information you need. That will be extremely helpful to us, I think, to understand.
And I would just ask, you know, just at least in terms, like, especially because housing is still getting stood up. There are probably resources they don't know what they don't have. So I mean, even if it's a quick conversation, just to say, okay, listen, I know you've done tons of work in the space. You know, so whatever data you do have, just let them know, it's like, I have access to this, because that might be helpful, so that way you don't have to recreate wheels and go look for stuff that you've probably already compiled already, so. And, you know, and by the same token, as they're developing that as well, they can let you know what they found out, which might affect some of the stuff that you're working on. But it's really important, especially because I know that, even prior to the meeting, we were just having conversations about some of the development we've seen, where we've seen tons of studios and 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, but they don't necessarily address families or larger families. Part of the conversation was we were talking about, okay, well, listen, usually that would have been a conversation that meant if you went past the 2 bedroom, you'd have to get a house. What are we talking about housing in terms of, for families, that might need a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment or something like that, or a house? What kind of housing are we building? What kind of home ownership opportunities we have? With all conversations that were had in that committee, I just want to say again, thank you so much, and we're looking forward to a lot of great things coming out. Land use has always been very stellar in terms of the way, we've approached the conversations. Housing is looking very, very strong, and I think, we're in the right direction in terms of getting the information we need for the board to be able to make the decisions and have the conversations we need to have. All right. And there were no action items, no voting items for this one, right?
I'll CC you on our minutes, because like we had items that I think are very relevant to housing, like, these tenant anti-harassment zoning, like some of these issues about public land. Actually, all the chairs should be thinking about that, because public land is schools, it's police stations, it's parks, it's pedestrian plazas, they're large. So something for you all to think about.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Rosenberger, and then we're gonna have to move on that. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I have 2 points. One, Suki pretty much covered the first point, regarding getting more information, how many units we have in the community, what type of units, categorized by how many houses, how many, 3-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, studios, and then also, I think it'd be helpful to know, the length of the tenants, how long people are staying in those units. Because
Yes, that's
if it would be, if we can know that, if we know that people are staying in studios for 15, 20 years, or 2 bedrooms or whatever, we can determine, if there's a problem, with people, moving on to bigger places or, whatever. So, I think, that was the first point. If we can find out how many units are empty, because, I heard that, there's thousands of units that are empty, and this is across the city.
I'm sure they are.
And the reason is that the landlords find it cheaper.
Yes.
They're losing money
Yes.
by filling the apartments,
Yes.
because their housing costs are going up and they can't raise the rents. So for them, it's cheaper,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about rent control, rent stabilization, it's cheaper than just to leave them empty.
There's a
So-
lot of them, a lot.
Yeah.
So that's a major problem.
Also cost of rent where it is,
Right.
Yeah.
on top of that problem.
Points, well, yes, absolutely, things that we need to look into.
So that was my first one. Second point, are homeowners or anybody with having a lien, a letter, a sale of a lien, are their homes really at risk of being taken from them? Because a lien sale is all the city is doing is they're selling the lien to a collection agency.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
collection agency is not gonna be able to take your home away if you owe money on it.
No.
The collection agency is basically paying the city, 50 cents on the dollar, or whatever. They think they can have a better chance of collecting money from whoever lives in the house than, the city doesn't wanna be in that business anyway, so. I was just wondering if it's really that dire of a problem for whoever has such a lien on their house, if they're gonna lose their property.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know.
Well, but
But the one thing I would say is, I don't wanna find out either. I wouldn't wanna be the homeowner and find out all of a sudden, oh wow, they can. Or, or something worse financially happens in terms of, here's the thing, the way usually you collect on a lien is you make somebody sell something of value. Like when they repo your car, they sell your car, you'll get back something, but they get whatever the value was that you owed for the car.
But with your primary residence, there's laws against that.
Okay, well, and I will defer to you on that one, I don't know, but again, to the point, I don't know if I wanna make anybody have to go through that process to find out.
Right.
Because it's already painful having to pay that bill, and then if you have to get lawyers and a whole bunch of other stuff, sometimes that by itself will bankrupt you.
I
Having to
think
defend
also,
it.
like, is there a point where your house can get taken or sold from under you?
I don't know, I don't think so.
well, it depends on how much taxes you owe, like water and sewer and all these things.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I know someone that he passed away since, but his water and sewer taxes were like $30,000, and I'm talking about maybe 5-6 years ago.
Well, the city has the right to foreclose if you
Right.
owe money to them, and they're always in first position with taxes, you know, compared with the mortgage or something like that. So, they can force a sale if you don't pay it off.
Right.
Most people pay it off like right before it goes, you know, it's sold or something, and, you know, they can't, like, if they're, obviously your home is almost certain to be worth more than whatever debt you owe to them, and so they have to give you the access once it's sold, but they have the right to sell it,
Right, but in
and
this
that's
case,
not necessarily a good thing.
in this case, the city is selling their rights to the lien.
To the lien, right?
Right.
So therefore, if the city has that power, the collection agency that's buying the lien doesn't have that power.
They may.
They do.
Oh,
They
don't?
may have, otherwise they would
They
not be
buy
the
it.
job.
They do, if they say
Yeah.
they would sell it to them.
Like if you have a debt collector, if they buy it, they can,
Yeah.
they can, you know, put up for money.
And the point I was trying to make was, I mean, regardless if it's, you know, like of that level of seriousness or not, I think it's still a checkpoint where we can warn people and say, hey, you know, this is one of those things that could be near that level of seriousness that you should look at, right? Like it's sort of like the sign before the cliff.
But the Department of Finance usually do like community outreach. Once they send you a letter, you know, you can go, you know, they'll meet with you at whatever location and, you know, try to resolve the issue before, you know, or find out where you are and how they can help. They usually have those, community-wide
Usually when,
outreach.
usually collection agencies or the city, they get paid their, whatever lien it is when somebody tries to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know, they're in line before the owner gets the proceeds. The seller gets the proceeds, you know, all the liens are taken care of.
Yeah,
But the point is, they sold your house to get the proceeds.
No,
So-
that's the question, whether or not, I'm talking about a voluntary selling, you know, the
Oh.
question is whether or not the city can force you to sell, that's the question.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, because I think to Suki's point, they can foreclose. They can foreclose on the property and say, no, we're gonna sell it, we're gonna get our money back, and you'll get whatever, after we get ours, you know,
The
you'll get
difference,
yours
yeah.
back, yeah. But your house has been sold.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much for those questions, thank you very much, Maida. All right, so we are going to go Mr. Almanor.
Yes, I don't have much because we did not meet. All I have is basically is an announcement. And I've been away for a while, and I know we have submitted a resolution for last general board meeting. I don't know if that resolution passed, I didn't say anything about it. The only announcement I'm having is that on Earth Day,
Yes.
it did pass, okay, on Earth Day, I will be part of a panel at the board president's office regarding preserving our green spaces, so it's gonna be between between 9 and 11 o'clock. So it's gonna be myself, this was a proposal that I made to them, but it's turned out it's gonna be the Prospect Park Alliance, New Yorkers Far Park, and myself as the member of the panel to discuss green spaces around and parks around the city. So if you guys can make it, I'm looking for, they're supposed to have sent me a flyer, hopefully I put that flyer in by the end of, for the blast.
What's the date?
Friday. This is on Monday, the 28th.
Thank you for that report, and, you know,
I've
are
been
you gonna represent
seeing
us
you on
very
the
well?
stuff, so if you check that, so you know
No,
the whole
absolutely.
process.
I know you're gonna represent us well, then.
Okay.
All right. Any questions for Parking and Recreation?
It's, I think it starts at 10 o'clock. But the whole event starts at 9 o'clock with introduction by the board president. Then we're going to a moderated panel. Okay, originally I was supposed to be moderator, but instead I'm going to be part of the panel.
Good.
If I could just, plant the thought for you that on the zoning side, there's been a lot of discussions about protecting important green spaces like Prospect Park and the Botanic Gardens and, you know, even our playgrounds and community gardens and so on from shadows. I think one of the city planning commissioners was even suggesting that we have some sort of like a broader plan to do that for the park spaces.
Okay.
Because we don't actually have height limited zoning around the parks. The Botanic Gardens, we did have it and it was threatened. And, basically because people were like, whatever, you know, doesn't matter. But I think that, you know, even at this planning commission level and the borough president as well, there's a recognition that we need to protect that. So, you know, that's obviously something we need to move forward on the zoning side too, but just, you know.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great topic to really, because my role, the way I see it, is really to introduce a lot of topics regarding parks that are being neglected, because what I've been proposing to them that the neighborhood parks don't get that much as what's happening in Prospect Park. Prospect Park has a Prospect Park Alliance. I mean, Central Park has conservancies. The small neighborhood park and playgrounds are completely neglected, and that's the whole process I'm trying to push. Like I know Ronald McNair Park is having a lot of problems. So those things we want to avoid. Plus we have the situation at Mount Prospects also. And also the topic I'm going to bring in, because one of the people is going to be there will be people from the community garden. Like for example, Unity Community Garden have been fighting 20 years to get something that was promised to them after they destroyed their garden. So these are some of the stuff I'm going to be putting out there. What we can do to enhance and protect our green spaces and all that of us.
The only thing I would probably tell you to add as well is, especially just to tie this in with the whole land use thing, is that especially with local development, one of the things that I think is always funny is that they talk about increasing density, but they never talk about increasing the green spaces.
Right.
Because if you're going to do that, so you're saying that all the new residents, everybody's gonna cram into Mount Prospect,
Right.
you should be thinking about that if you're gonna be expanding density and adding people to a district.
Right.
That should always be a part of that, where it's like you give people a place to breathe
Yes.
and experience sunlight or whatever else,
I'm
so.
glad you made that point, because this was my main concern when it comes to Vital Brooklyn. How much of the planning is for green spaces for the community? As they do that, how much that figure into the equation?
Well, I'll tell you the way they do it, and I'm sorry if this is cynical, but they're just gonna make taller towers so that they can have more open space and then say that's your green space.
That's right.
Quickly, Dante sent an email at 7:30 saying that the city council planning, the zoning meeting for 7399 has been deferred.
Yeah, I was trying to like testify, but it disappeared off the schedule.
Yeah,
It's all right.
Deferred or?
it says deferred. It says once a new date has been published, we will send out an email as to.
That's what I'm saying, so
Not
deferred
Wednesday.
means it's not happening?
Oh, so they.
No,
No, plan now.
It said deferred.
Deferred.
I'm using the words
I
here.
was told originally it was the
Reschedule.
23rd.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be
deferred.
It's
Okay.
not gonna be the.
Oh, so you signed up to testify for the
I was trying
23rd.
to, and
Okay.
I couldn't because you have to pick the meeting you're gonna testify at, and
Yeah.
that one was not there.
See, I'm concerned about just that language,
You gotta
just
pick the
because
meeting you
deferred
want to see
means, I'm not sure if that means the committee saying, we don't need,
Yeah, it doesn't
we
mean
don't
like-
need to have a hearing.
That means reschedule, but the first doesn't mean reschedule.
Actually, that's it.
No, that's what I'm saying,
Deferred.
reschedule,
Reschedule,
postpone,
postpone, yeah.
whatever else, it's
They-
like.
Deferred is not, it's a
deferred
different kind of
sounds-
word.
The planning commission heard it at the end of March, and they only have, the council only has 60 days to weigh in. If they fail to weigh in, it goes forward. So they have until the end of May, I guess. But they need to have the subcommittee vote, they need to have the full committee vote, then they need to have the full council vote.
The only thing I'm guessing is, they're still working on details, so they didn't wanna have a hearing.
Okay,
That's my thought,
I
they
hope
didn't
that's-
wanna have the hearing because they're still
I hope
negotiating.
that's a good sign.
I don't know. They're negotiating, so I think, it'll be a last minute surprise to everyone in terms of what actually gets put forward before the council. That's cynical Fred Hammond, but, all right, okay, well, thank you very much for that announcement. Dante? Are you ready, are you prepared? I think we're gonna do the district manager's report in a minute, I just have to do the public safety report.
Okay.
All right. Okay, yeah, so I wanna thank everyone for the report, so we're just gonna do a very, very brief public safety meeting, report.
Public safety.
Public safety. So, public safety meeting, committee we met this month. We are still working on developing a framework for the SLAs, so we're hopefully gonna have a framework we're gonna discuss for the May meeting, so that's coming up, hopefully. We only had one action item for the month. We had a renewal for, I think it's 1109 Nostrum, which is Allen's Bakery. So they currently have a liquor license that they wanted to get renewed. So they came before the committee voted, unanimously in favor of for the renewal. So that's the one action item we have that is going to be going up for, that we are putting for this evening for the board to consider. All right, separately, I think last month, early in the month, Dante had sent out, there was, information sent out from FDNY about the profiles, fire safety for the district, for all the Brooklyn Community Boards, commissioners. So, yeah, that had come out like in the beginning of March. I can make sure we
I
share.
go back.
But, yeah, we were able to look at the fire safety data for the board. So, I mean, definitely some places where we're not the worst in the city, but definitely places we want to make improvements as well. I think one of the big things that we've looked at, it's been a consistent conversation, especially with lithium, battery safety. We want to make sure that we're having conversations. I think the numbers have been good so far, but with the proliferation, we just want to make sure that we're ahead of the curve, talking to people about safety and what we need to do with those things.
Best practices.
Best practices. We're also talking about different things that we could do in terms of, I think one of the conversations was about paper shredding, like perhaps having a paper shredding event. I think our district coordinated one, but doing different kinds of that nature, consistently. And also, I think we were talking about seasonal safety items that we want to make sure we talked about. Like for in the winter, we're always concerned about space heaters. We're concerned about ovens being used for heating and a number of other
Extension
things.
cords being used for.
Extension cords, thank you, and everything of that nature. But we want to make sure that we're doing these things seasonally as well. Fire prevention, we want to make sure we're talking about carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors, because that's some of the data that we saw on there as well. Where you see sometimes these deaths are needless because it's like, they didn't have the fire safety, they didn't have the fire safety equipment that was there. There were different tips that they proposed as well. But I encourage everyone to please make sure that you're looking at that. And definitely, let us know as a public safety committee if there's any things that you think we want to implement on a broader level as a board in terms of, encouraging safety in the district.
We have a CPR training.
I'll put that on the list. Well, and this is the thing, those are the kinds of things.
And then, so
No,
that
I mean, we could.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to say that I think Dante, as part of the community fair, we've typically done that where we've had paramedics that will be there that do certifications and CPR and stuff like that. We're doing those things and making it more regular.
More intimate, intensive than the relevant.
I mean,
But then you can ask questions and the whole.
here's the thing. I mean,
Start from my chest when you're supposed
there's
to.
what we get out in the open, and there's what we have to pay for. So
You get Red Cross too.
On the subject of the community fair,
Mhm.
did we decide on a date yet?
Dante will be coming in. We're gonna ask him as far as. All right, so that's the only item I have in terms of public safety.
Why?
Yeah, so that one item, the liquor license renewal. Okay, any questions? All right, hearing none, thank you very much, and then we'll put that on the agenda. Dante? Okay, thank you.
That's not chairman's report, that's it. Public
This is
safety.
your oh yeah, the public safety.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so I'm just gonna go through a couple of things here. The New York City Office of Technology and Innovation, OTI, is pleased to announce the release of a public infrastructure RFI, request for information. The RFI invites feedback from a wide range of interested parties to help OTI determine the best use of public infrastructure in support of the advanced and equitable availability of critical telecommunication services and the city's broader digital equity goals. Responses received will help inform possible future RFPs or other solicitations. That deadline is May 30th, so we have some time. I sent that over to Debbie's committee, so they'll take a look at that.
That was a mouthful, can you translate?
I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Jackie Robinson and our district at 46 McKeever Place will be going through some cosmetic work, which includes roofs and some exterior masonry. That project will begin shortly. They didn't provide a date of when it will start, but it is expected to be completed in the summer of 2026. Due to the nature of the work and for the safety of the students and staff, all activities must take place after normal school hours. DSNY is hosting compost give backs. The one in Brooklyn will be at 459 North Henry Street, Brooklyn, New York 11222. It will open April 23rd through September 27th of this year, and we will have that information in our e-blast. The Department of Transportation is proposing to amend Title 34 of the Rules of the City of New York to authorize DOT pedestrian plaza and open streets partners through their concession agreements with DOT to permit their sub-concessionaires to designate areas of DOT pedestrian plazas and open streets for exclusive use by their patrons, subject to certain restrictions and the review and approval of DOT. DOT will hold that proposed hearing. That's actually going to be online on the 23rd, so it's coming up like really fast. At 10 a.m., you can submit comments to rules@dot.nyc.gov. Just a couple of administrative updates. We have not received any updates or notices about community board appointments. So I have a feeling they're probably gonna happen pretty soon, but we haven't received anything officially. So when that happens, we'll let everyone know. You may have heard that the administration is relaxing its enforcement on violations pertaining to the citywide composting mandate.
Okay.
So that's been out in the news. If we get any more formalities from that, be sure to send that out. That's been an ongoing discussion. Earlier in the month, we did have a structural fire at 1548 Carroll Street. There were no civilian injuries reported, and that fire was placed under control. Just wanted to note, we did add some information to the website, the EIS, the FEIS from Kingsborough, Vital Brooklyn, we added to the site. Also the Eastern Parkway Transit Priority Proposal and the automatic public toilet proposal and the DEP presentation that was at the committee this past month. We added that to the website for the public's usage. I heard this a little bit earlier. We have not picked a date yet for the community fair. Organizations still have until the 30th to sign up. Right now we're at about 50 organizations. We're actually at 52 organizations. So we still have some time for agencies and nonprofits to sign up for that. Let's see. We will be holding sometime in May, I just gotta figure out the date, our statement of needs public hearing for facilities. We do this every year. I send it out. I definitely want to encourage folks who have sentiments about shelters to actually come to the public hearing because they basically leave an open RFP for this. So this is an opportunity to express those thoughts. So there was a little bit of a mistake. I just sent out something that said that the city council hearing for 7399 was deferred. That is incorrect. I'm sending out a correction, so that will actually, it will be taking place on Wednesday at 10 a.m. So that information is all the same, so carry forward if you planned on going, please go. But I will send out the correction to the community so everyone knows. Yeah, the stuff that was before the ULERP on the 22nd was deferred, not the 23rd.
Okay.
And let's just, I think the one thing that you basically said, let's see, so the RFI, I mean, basically the way that I read this is the city's going to figure out how to invest in digital infrastructure. And so as they do that, here's your opportunity to make comment about what that infrastructure should look like, where it should go, who should need it, so on and so forth. All right.
So you're talking about basically like internet access?
Yeah, it
Those Link NYC machines, the 5G poles?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it.
To make it any broader.
yeah, they didn't. But yeah, so that's it. That's the report. Thanks.
All right, okay, any questions for the district manager?
I heard earlier, I think Debbie, your committee, the fire hydrant.
Right.
Did you guys want that as a resolution or a letter to the agency?
A letter to the agency,
Perfect. And so I thought I already have it typed up,
just
so I'll send it
asking
when I get
if
back in.
there's a more updated or
Yeah.
current report pertaining to that.
Yeah, I had to adjust the language a little bit, but I was literally doing that, so.
Are you still convening the district cabinet meetings?
Yeah, that will happen in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll be taking place in the morning.
So you'll give us that report at the general board?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll put it in the reminder email.
I remember why the one who don't see any tulips in this particular city night. I've been the one I've seen it all over the park space is full of tulips. I haven't seen none in CV9. Ask that for the parks department.
Right, what,
So I'm gonna say, you want to go tiptoe?
you're absolutely right.
You move it to-
Because I had a walk-in with the borough commissioner 2 years ago where he had promised that to work with the schools and use their spaces and get the kids to tulips. I've never heard anything to that point.
Interesting. All right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the district manager? Okay,
Oh, I just want to say something to Dante. Now you're here. I really want to say thank you for all the good work that you put into our 3 banks. We know we've been up and down and changing and stuff. And you've been very gentle and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. I don't have anything else. This will go out. I'm gonna send out the general board email immediately after this, so when you guys finish, I'm like sending it all out.
Okay.
All right.
if you can, just hang out, just because I'm gonna give my report, and then we're gonna go right into the agenda too, so. All right, and I probably just need to understand, okay, all right, so. I'm gonna be very brief, well, I'm gonna try to be very brief, well, let me not promise that. All right, so for my district manager's report, I'm gonna try, chair's report, getting punchy now. All right, we're gonna cover a few of these things we've talked about, I'm gonna go through those quickly. Vital Brooklyn, so again, the FEIS came in, I already gave some remarks with respect to that. So, one of the expectations is we did request a meeting from EDC to come present to the board. So, Dante, have you heard anything from EDC about when they're gonna come?
They are still talking internally about when and how they're going to participate. I already sent them a date, I think it was like April 30th to let me know, sometime in April to let me know, because ideally, if they're going to come to us, we're gonna get a bigger space. So, just waiting for that to happen.
Could be
Okay.
worth doing a separate meeting. I mean, I can post it in my committee if you want me to, but I think there's probably broader.
At this point, and because of the size of this, it's probably gonna be something bigger than a community, and I almost envision that it'll be something separate.
Yeah.
But I just need them to
Yeah,
commit
I
to doing
think
this
that's
at
a
this
good
point.
idea.
So, but that request is out for EDC to come and present to the board, basically town hall style, where they need to be able to address some of these issues. So, give a summary of what's in the FEIS and discuss a little bit about the process in terms of what happened with
I
that, so.
think if you can get a space closer to the eastern end of the district, that would be a good thing.
Some of that'll be dictated by when they let us know,
Okay.
how far, how much notice they give us.
Like the SUNY Downstate Auditorium is used for events sometimes, that might.
It's good to do it there, but that's just a little bit outside, that's the other side of the,
Oh.
that's the 17th.
Oh, okay.
So,
Right.
but to that point, I think one time we did have something over by
Join?
Wingate or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like Wingate High School has a big auditorium too.
They do, but then again, that's gonna be a matter of depending on what date we get and what we have access to. So that's gonna be that part of that conversation. But we are definitely committed to making sure they come in here because they need to address this. And we want them to do it in a timely manner because if there's anything we need to say, as I said before, if we have anything to say, they're voting on this by late May from what I understand. So we need to make sure our commentary is given and they're fully understood what our position is with that. So that director's vote, from what I understand, later in May. One of the things they did commit to was a community advisory board, so absolutely, we're gonna make sure we hold them to that. But if there are any other issues that we need to address, let's start getting those questions together. But actually, that'll be the conversation, the communication. When we get that finalized, I want people to have questions that we're gonna ask and everything like that, so we can engage them, get that information. Dante had mentioned, so we don't have the appointments made already. They should be coming soon, from my understanding. So, obviously not for this month, but by next month, we expect to have expect to have reappointments and new members of the board. One of the things that we are trying to organize, and we'll see what happens with the date in terms of whenever they do the appointments, we want to do a new member orientation. I think that, we didn't have an opportunity to do it this last cycle. but I think we do better when we at least have the opportunity to kind of get everyone together, you know, meet people, faces and everything like that. And I think even some of the trainings we've done are always good. I'm sorry?
Should we do that first?
It'll be in person. It'll be in person. I mean, we just wanna make sure there's a space that's conducive for it, but, you know, we definitely wanna do that. Give an opportunity for new members to meet. I always say that this is one of the toughest times to come in, especially if you're a new member, because the first thing we do is throw you in the pit and tell you select leadership for next year. And you have no idea. And you don't know anything about the committees, you know nothing about meetings or Robert's rules, you may have only a very, very cursory knowledge of that. So we wanna do our best in terms of trying to at least set the atmosphere where it's like, okay, first of all, welcome. It's gonna be, you know, pretty fast paced, but we want people to know that they're supported and give all the resources we can to make sure that everybody's, you know, able to participate fully. Yes.
One question, how does it work since the previous members, their terms expired at the end of March? So technically, we only have half a board right now.
No, your terms, thanks for bringing that question up. The terms technically expire in March, but you don't leave until you've been replaced. So you keep showing up, so even though your term is expired in March, you keep coming until they tell you, thank you for your service, and you're gone. So that's what happens with that. So that's why we're kind of in that holding pattern. Everybody who's a member is still a member until they've been, you know, either reappointed or tell the, you know, that their replacement has been appointed and is taking their place. All right, yes, so I wanna also acknowledge, oh, sorry, you got a question?
Yes, I
Go
do
ahead.
have a question.
Sure.
For the member orientation, is this something you wanna do in this office, or you wanna do it like a very intimate event at a separate location with food and refreshments?
I prefer the latter, but I guess I have to talk to the district manager to see what budget says.
Yeah, I think it would be more conducive.
Yeah, I think it works better there. I mean, not that this is not a lovely space, but I think that, you know, I just wanna make sure that there's an opportunity for people to just be there, fellowship for a little bit, just be human for a minute, just introduce yourself. As opposed to set it up school style or having these conversations.
It was nice.
Right.
Like in Rogers Avenue.
Yeah, but that's the thing, so I mean, that'll be part of the conversation in terms of budget, space availability and everything else.
I'd make a suggestion that we have this orientation, that get some clips of the meetings, of like when we have unruly meetings, and say, this is what we do not wanna do, and then.
Oh.
I
I thought you said you wanna scare them off right now.
But that's what we do online where you were accountable, so that's good.
Yeah, all right, okay, Brooklyn State of the Borough, I wanted to thank all the members, I did see several members of the board who were there, so I think it was very good, we were very well represented, so I think we heard a lot of the messages of, you know, in terms of what the borough president's vision is. I think some of the things we shared, I think some of the things we definitely wanna make sure we talk about, and we address. I think one of the things that we've been doing as a board is that we've been trying to be more policy oriented. So I don't want us to be reactive in terms of saying yes, no, and that's all. I wanna make sure that our you know, we've set policy in terms of, we've explained the reason why we give certain answers. And then we're predictable. I think that's what's very important in terms of if we're, you know, we have the conversations and we set the parameters around how we want things to happen in the district. It gives us the credibility we need to have, and it you know, makes people respect our opinions and our decisions. Understanding that they're not out of emotion, they're not, you know, knee jerk, they're not because, you know, we were against something, it's because as a community board, we've already stated what our principles are and how we operate. So I wanna make sure, you know, I just wanted to point that out, but I think it's important that we're in those spaces. And I think it is recognized, so I wanna thank everyone who's able to go there as well. And as we're talking about people in spaces, I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege in terms of, for those who have been, you know, been on the board for a while, Ms. Evelyn Williams. She passed away, not last month, a month or two ago. So we had her services were held, just earlier this month. And I wanna thank all those board members who were there. Because I think it's very important that, you know, Ms. Williams was a long tenured member of the board. And she was an officer of the board for a number of years as well. So she definitely paid her dues here in CB9, and I think it was appropriate that we had representation from the board as well. So I thank everyone who showed up and did that. One of the things I want for us to consider, I don't know if we'll be able to do it for this month, maybe perhaps for May, is I think it's an appropriate tribute, or it may be an appropriate tribute I think we can discuss in terms of at least posthumously designating her as a member at large emerita. posthumously, because she was an officer till her last day on the board.
Yes.
So perhaps that's a fitting tribute that we might be able to do that, and recognize her in terms of her service to the district. I'll make sure I have to get her, her obituary, and I'll share that, and that'll be part of the conversation we have, but we'll see, she's done so much in the community, so that's something that I think we want us to consider and look at.
How long ago was she last on the board?
She's
not
long.
long.
2022.
No,
Yes. Yes, when I was like, when it was,
Now, at least I think from by the time I started to go to the board, at least 8 to 7 years, I know I can.
yeah, right, I know you know her.
Well, how long she was on the board or off the board?
I mean, me, I've been around
When she
since for
stopped.
at least 6, 7
Oh,
years.
Oh, when did she stop?
How long ago did when was her last?
Oh, she
2022.
was having COVID.
Oh, something like that.
2022, right
20,
after
yeah,
COVID.
little after
Not that
COVID,
long.
yes.
Not that
Cause when
long.
we was online, she was there.
That brings me the idea, since you're doing that, one of the things we're thinking about in the Parks Recreation Committee is to start some kind of recognize people within the community where they live by putting a plaque, the plaque project. For example, she was very successful in getting a building for all the tenants. I think they bought each of their apartments
Yes.
for
Yes,
about
yes.
$1 or something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, but you
This
just
is
look at
something
the from my
that
church.
building.
2,000 something.
So we will do a kind of a plaque for her within either on the floor, that's something we've been thinking about, on the wall of that building to document that history.
Absolutely, and to that point, from what I understand, that there are other efforts that are being done as well in terms of being able to commemorate her.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate that in terms of, let's see what as a board we can do in terms of
Okay.
making sure we respect that legacy as
Because I think people do what, street renaming? I'm looking at it within the same thing, but we would do a plaque for that person on that place.
We've had that discussion on my committee too last year. We were considering alternative ways to commemorate people's memories that don't involve street co-naming, because everybody can't get one. There's limited streets, limited corners, and it's like it brings up a different discussion of what kind of memories we want to have as street co-namings versus another way to remember people. Like there was a time when it was like a string of tragedies that we had, our request for co-namings for, and we wanted to kind of just have some sort of diversity and to not have like an untimely death on every corner, as opposed to like someone who was venerated or somebody who was really respected, and we wanted to have alternatives so it wouldn't end up being just one trend of one common thing happening on every street.
I'm thinking also, for example, one of our former board member who did that for his father right in front of his building. In the tree guard, put a plaque, and he said, "This is in memory of my father." That's Lobo, Christian Lobo.
Oh, yes.
So he did that, and he got a nice plate, and then I think he might have planted the tree there, and then put the plate there.
well. Absolutely. No, so absolutely, and I love these ideas, and I wanna make sure
I'm
that
so
we're able
sorry.
to develop
I'm so
these.
sorry.
And
Excuse me. No.
so absolutely, I wanna make sure that we're able to,
This is an idea I just thought, but this would be, I think she should be definitely a candidate for that.
absolutely. Okay, just a couple more points and we're gonna go. So the community fair, so as the district manager had said, so that's coming up, fast approaching. So I think, Dante, are we close to getting the date for that?
We'll know after May 30th.
Okay.
Because that's what we're.
And I know some of the questions are between the dates and everything like
And
that and where
space.
we're going to do it. I think some of the questions we've been trying to answer in terms of how big, how small. I know one of the considerations has always been around the vendors' availability too. So I think one of the things that Dante had asked was, okay, well, listen, give us your availability in terms of when you'll be able to do this. I know in years past, I think we've seen differences in terms of who's able to show out depending on the dates. So we're trying to see what we can do, and I think I want to thank the district office for putting that out early enough where it's like, hopefully now that we're a little bit earlier, people can say, listen, we have some more flexibility and we can, can get some choices with regards to the dates. But that'll be coming out from the district manager's
Are
office.
we changing the date
There were a
looking
couple
at-
of dates that were,
I think he narrowed it down to
instead of
two days.
Saturday?
that's the thing, in terms of, I think we're looking at Saturday, we're looking at Sunday. But to that point though, it was a matter of who's available on those days. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. Alright, so the community fair and they'll do that. Dante, would you be able to get a budget proposal before the board soon?
Yeah, I can do it tomorrow.
Okay, so let's do that, so let's make that an action item, so we get a budget proposal. I think consistent with past, practice, what we've done is that we've authorized the district office to spend up to a certain dollar amount in terms of, yeah, so you don't,
Chairs and-
if it's going to this, it'll go there, so you don't have to come back and tell us, okay, I need $50 for chairs or whatever it is. The budget is authorized up to that, and if there's something additional to that, then, that's a matter that we come back to the board for that, but otherwise, I think he's been very, the board's been very consistent in terms of, we've come around a certain dollar amount. So I think we should just authorize that so that we can just run with it, whatever.
This budget is for the entire fair,
Yes.
For the fair.
so divide it up by all the committees get a piece of the pie or something like
To
that.
do it.
Yeah. All right, a couple of items, again, thank you, shout out to, Education for the Educational Town Hall. There is a new commanding officer at the 71st Precinct. So I am scheduled to go meet with them along with the district manager to introduce ourselves. But I also have some other conversations that I wanna have with regards to the way the process happened. In terms of, I am very uncomfortable with the fact that we didn't know officially when the last CEO left. And this is not the way I want to be introduced when the new CEO came in. And there's a middle piece in terms of, I think CB9 needs to be a stakeholder, because I know that the process is supposed to be an interview with stakeholders in terms of before you hire somebody. The new CEO is here, so apparently they've gone through that process. But one of the things that we need to make sure that we insist upon is that CB9 needs to be consulted, and we need to understand what's going on with this. So that is one of the conversations. So the district manager and I are scheduled to have that. Definitely intend to invite the new CEO as well to come to hopefully to the board meeting, because I think it's important that he introduces himself to the community in that respect as well. So that's something that we're gonna be doing shortly. Two last pieces, we did member orientation, actually, last piece I have. Nominations. We are now at the April meeting, which, as I said before, we are in the process of wrapping up our year. Part of that means that we actually go into election cycle. So per the bylaws, in April, we impanel a nominations committee. That nominations committee will meet and they will canvass the board, and they will come back with those members of the board who have said that they wish to run for a position at the May meeting. At the May meeting, we then open the floor as well, so we announce all those who have said yes, they want to run. We open the floor for an opportunity for anybody else who has reconsidered and wishes to run, and their names will be added to the slate. Per our bylaws, there are no nominations or running from the floor at the June meeting. We have the ballots. The ballots will have the names of those who have presented themselves as candidates. People can do write-ins if you wish, but otherwise, we're not doing nominations from the floor at that point. And then we will select leadership for the upcoming year. So, I'm fully hoping and expecting that, the current members of the executive committee, I hope that you run. You've been phenomenal to work with, and I hope you continue, because I think you are a large part of the reason why this board has been successful. So I do hope that you consider coming back and running for, positions, for this year as well. But yes, so that's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to open the floor. We're going to nominate. We're going to impanel the nominations committee tomorrow. That is all I have at this time. I will take any questions. Yes.
Unrelated to anything you just said. Question, sorry. Our agenda for tonight, should we change it to add in the district manager's report, just knowing how certain people in this community?
Administrative check-in.
But it's right there.
Oh, mine doesn't have it.
CB9 administrative check-in.
Okay, I thought that was the community, I'm sorry, I'm reading.
Oh, yeah,
You had me
Okay,
scared.
I'm
I was like,
sorry,
did I read
I'm sorry.
it?
No, it's okay.
No,
it's
the
okay.
wording, cause some
Yeah.
people,
No,
It is the
understood.
district manager.
yeah,
That's it.
the wording in the past has been district manager's report, and some people,
Usually we use district manager's report for the actual
Yeah.
the actual
board
meeting,
The board
okay,
meeting.
so that's what I
But I
missed, I'm sorry.
think Dante and Fred have been submitting it before the meeting anyway, because it's
Yeah.
they attached
We
to
usually do.
yeah, Well, you follow orders and you did.
This month, might be a little Acapulco.
Yes.
No, I'll have it
Because it's
written.
tomorrow, so you're forgiven this one.
Yes.
Apologies.
No, my apologies. Okay, all right, are there any other questions, with regards to my report? Okay.
So,
All right.
that's okay.
Okay,
Let's
thank you
go.
very much.
The agenda.
All right, so at this point, we're gonna go to the agenda. First Vice Chair, when we've actually listed out all the items in our calendar in terms of the timing, if you have the timing from last month, I just need to stick pretty closely to that.
We've already got it on the, I've got the time.
He got it time on the,
All right,
I also record the actual timing that we took from the last meeting,
okay,
so
all right.
that's part of it.
So here we go. So public session, we're gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna public session, call the meeting to order. Welcome. Sorry about that. But I'll take a photocopy.
Okay.
So you'll have a copy. So call to order, welcome. Then we are going to have presentations. Are there any presentations for this month? No presentations. All right, so the only presentations we are going to have, the only presentation we're going to have is regarding the SLA application, the renewal for Allen's Bakery, and that's not the appropriate business title, but we'll just leave that for now.
What's that?
No, it's 1109 or
1107.
1107 Nostrand, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
Nostrand Ave Corp.
Thank you. It's 1107 Nostrand Ave Court. All right. Are there any resolutions that should have a presentation or
You have the street cafe already?
Street Cafe, are they presenting?
That's a,
Are they coming? I don't think so.
Okay. I don't know if we need them for that as well. All right, so we have the SLA application for 1107. After that, we are going to go into public commentary. After public commentary, we're gonna have acknowledgements. And then we will go into the business session. We're going to the roll call. Then we are going to do approval of minutes. So this will be for the March minutes. Then we are going to go into committee reports. After committee reports, we're going to do the end report. Madam Treasurer, did you want to do a report this month, or you want to hold off until May?
Should we do it since we're having a fair and people want to say, is it in the budget?
We probably should have done it.
but what difference does it make? They don't want us out, I mean, you say.
So Dante, would you be able to have that prepared for tomorrow?
I already
Also-
sent it to me.
Oh, wait, tomorrow.
I know, right?
You got some complaints
I
before
am literally will go out tonight.
about
It's
the
already in the
budget
email.
spreadsheet being small on the page.
Yeah,
Can we turn it so it's like landscape?
Can,
we talked about
yeah, we
that.
talked about that too.
Yeah.
Did you, if you send it to me, I can play with that.
So Treasurer.
By
sent it.
tomorrow, right?
Before the
Yeah,
day.
literally when I send out the email tonight, you'll get it.
Okay, all right,
Before you.
thank you.
Yeah, no, you get it.
Treasurer's
Yeah,
report.
but, yeah.
So we're gonna do the treasurer's report. Then we're going to have the chairman's report. Now, subheading under the chairman's report, we're gonna put nominations committee.
Question. Just remember, we're reading from 161, right?
Correct. Oh, 61.
Yeah,
I meant 61, not 161.
sorry.
No, that's it. Because that'll be a block and a half over.
Yeah, I just wanna say, make sure that all this is short, that we not have to get it, anything with those people,
No,
they're not
that's,
happening.
and, well, we'll talk about that
Yes,
soon. as
so
we
the
discuss
committee
that.
reports, please,
Yes,
bring it written, and we'll read it.
Chair's report, nominations committee. After that, we are going to do voting session. And voting session will include, one, the SLA application for 1107 Nostrand.
Mhm.
Two will be the sidewalk cafe application.
Right name, something?
Was it, how,
What is
I think it came up
Hanson?
last month, right?
Well,
That sidewalk cafe application? Did it come up last month?
that was a different one.
Yeah, it was a different
Okay.
sidewalk cafe application. I'm sorry, let me just check notes very quickly.
Houston
Um,
Stubble?
Action.
Houston Stubble?
yeah, that's the one. Two, three,
Transportation.
we're gonna put down community fair budget approval.
Did you talk about something support for open? You got the support for the open streets,
No,
it's
we-
not, it
we
doesn't
denied
have, okay, cool, alright, so.
Alright, we got that. C, land use and housing, nothing more,
What did you-
public safety, that one. Environmental protection, nothing, you guys are good, transportation, we got the sidewalk cafe. Right. PRC, we don't have anything. Do you know if we have anything from either Health and Social Services or Economic Development?
No, they don't have any voting items.
Okay. All right, so, okay, so we have that. So I have three voting items. We have the SLA application, the sidewalk cafe, and the community fair budget. Okay, all right, and then we have no old business, correct?
No.
Okay, so new business. And then we adjourn. Okay, let's just put the times on this very quickly. All right,
Welcome, seven is.
what do we have for call to order? Welcome, how much do we have for that?
No, they won't remember. Usually 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, do we need to do the times or just have the district officer do that?
Hmm?
Do we need to do the times, the district officer has the
Yeah,
template?
they could have it. They already have the last agenda, so they can probably.
Then that's fine, okay, so we'll just copy that template,
They can copy it.
okay.
It was pretty close to what we used.
Okay, agenda for 22. Okay, all right, so this is the agenda. We're just gonna go through it and just let me know if there's anything to add. Public session, call to order, welcome. Then we have presentation, it's gonna be an SLA application for 1107 Nostrand Avenue Corp., followed by public comment. Then we have acknowledgements. Then we go into the business session, beginning with the roll call. We'll have the approval of the March 25 minutes. We will have committee reports. We will have the district manager's report. We're going to have the treasurer's report. Then the chair will provide a report as well, and with one action item for the nominations committee. Then we're going to go into the voting session. We have three items. One, the SLA for 1107 Nostrand. Then we have two, the sidewalk cafe application. And three, we have the community fair budget. After that, we have new business, and then we adjourn. Is there anything missing from the agenda?
Nomination special audit, it's gonna be part of the,
Yeah, actually, that's correct. So the chairman's report, it should be special orders.
For the nomination committee.
Yeah, after chair's report,
Yes, yes, yes.
for the special orders and the nominations committee. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Also, there was a pedestrian injury crash at Rotterdam Empire this month.
Hello?
This month. So, I was looking at some of it from the past 4 years, and it has about 3 crashes, and the intersections that do have those islands.
Let's do this, let's do this and then.
No, yeah, go ahead. This is just,
You can put it in.
Okay, okay, so, all right, so do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as stated?
So moved.
Okay, moved by
Everybody.
Ms. Albanor, and do I have a second?
Everybody.
All right, second, well, we'll give Madam Secretary the second. You get the second, you can get the motion.
Nominations is under yours?
Yes.
Under-
Nominations are gonna be special orders. It'll be a special order,
Got it.
all right, so Albanor, Watson, order. All right, any objection to adoption of the agenda by common consent? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. All right, okay, so that is the agenda for tomorrow. Is there any other business that we need to consider for this evening?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, hearing none, we've completed our agenda. I want to thank everybody. Looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. I know this is a tight time for turnaround. We're gonna get it done. Listen, the one thing I just have to make sure we know, we need to, one, show up on time, 7 o'clock. We are rocking and rolling. We're gonna start 7 o'clock. 2, I know that we usually get into a lot of spirited and lively conversations. We gotta keep it tight. We gotta keep it tight tomorrow, so we make sure
Get everything cool.
concise questions, to the point, we limit them, and we keep it, any debate, in order. So with that being said, thank you very much, everyone. We are now adjourned. Time is now 9:44.
you don't keep